Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. What is going on? I hope you guys are ready. I am ready. I am pumped. We have the inimitable, the unstoppable, the undefeatable Judge Borowski today delivering the sentence of doom to Theodore Edgecomb. And well, let's just suggest that I don't want to be Teddy Edgecombe in this situation. I would prefer to be Borowski or B'Ivory Lamar or literally anybody other than what's going to happen to Edgecombe today. So that'll be it'll be a fun thing. And for everybody out there saying on time, I was early today just for you. I did it for you. I learned it from watching you. Whoo. Whoo, whoo, whoo. But yeah, so we will be doing that. I will be joined at least by Mr. Andrew Branca, law of self-defense himself, coming in. He has something else to do right at the top of the hour here, but he said he'd pop in once he's done with that. This actual hearing is slated to start at 1:30 p.m. So we have about the Central Time, of course. So we have about 30 minutes before that happens. So if you want to talk about anything beforehand, we can do that. We can actually have a conversation, and we maybe need to have a conversation about an OnlyFans model, because what other topic should we open the day with? I mean, should we just do this right now? Should we just get this out of the way? Because everybody's thinking about this. Everybody's thinking about this. They got two thoughts. They got, oh dear God, I wish I hadn't bought an annual subscription. And the second thought is, but she's single now, though. You may not know who I'm talking about, and I can't remember her name because she's an OnlyFans thought. But I will. I'll pull it up, and I will remember her name. Courtney Clenny, otherwise known as Courtney something else. Let's see. Let's see. her OnlyFans name was Courtney. Who cares? Taylor. Courtney Taylor. Let's see. Do we have? Even as they arrest her, she's making OnlyFans pictures. Oh my God, they have to blur out her nipple. Here we go. Let's pull it up. Let's see what's going on. If you haven't heard this story, Courtney Taylor is she's an Instagram model with like 2 million followers, and she's also got an OnlyFans. I've never heard of her before today when I was sitting at the chiropractor's office reading the news, and she just shanked her boyfriend. Her boyfriend and you know, I think probable co-star in some of her illicit content just stabbed him, and he went ahead and died from it. Very, very breaded of him to do that. I mean, he should have stayed alive so that he could slap her for stabbing him. Here we go. Look at this. OnlyFans star Courtney Clenny is seen covered in blood being questioned by cops next to her two dogs moments after stabbing her boyfriend to death in their Miami apartment. She's 25, was filmed by a neighbor on her balcony after stabbing her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli. Friends of the couple said they had a volatile relationship. Some claimed he beat her, whereas others said she was violent towards him. Video was taken so of course she hasn't been arrested. She has been taken into mental health custody because she was suicidal, she said, after this. Video was taken on Sunday, April 3rd. Clenny is shown in a bloodstained bra. Obumseli was rushed to a nearby hospital. He died from his injuries. It's unclear if she stabbed him in self-defense. Well, let's take a look. So here's the photos of her. covered. They have a tasteful black box there, of course. Notice the amount of blood on this chick is very extensive. Very extensive. And here's more as they talk here. What are you doing? No, you're not on OnlyFans. Stop. Don't make that move. Oh, here's her before she stabbed this guy to death. She stabbed him in the shoulder. She stabbed him in the shoulder and he died from it because there's a bunch of like, arteries and stuff up there. You don't want to get stabbed. You don't want to get stabbed there. Here she is again. This is not one of her jailhouse photos. I want to say this is probably from her social media, I'm guessing. Here they are again, pre-stabbing. This dude in the back with the young shorts. But here's that. Oh, look. This is love. The next step, you guys don't know this because it's a young generation. You've all been raised on TV and fantasy and stuff, but how you actually do the mating rituals today is you kiss in a car and then you stab them to death in a shoulder. That's how it works. And if they die from it, then they were a beta, right? Like that's how you know. That's how you know you have a beta. It's like, oh, I stabbed you in the shoulder. You should, that's not a big deal. There's not like a heart or lungs or anything up there and you died from it.
Beta.
So then now she's single, right? Here's another image of them. This dude's wearing a Burberry shirt. Come on, man. And he's got a man purse. You know what? I'm on her side. I'm on her side. And I don't normally take the side of the internet model because they're routine. They got enough people inside. But on this one, he's wearing a Burberry shirt and wearing a purse. I think it's justified at that point. Here we go. Here's another picture of her. She was hospitalized on a mandatory 72-hour hold. Yeah, she was Baker acted because of her suicide threat. Here's this. She's not in this one. I don't think. She might be down on the football field. I don't know. She seems like an athlete. Yeah, and here's drenched in blood after fatally stabbing boyfriend. And then this. Why is Nicholas Cruz's judge doing a Roman salute? What's going on there? Okay, so anyway, this is a story. Miami police responded to multiple domestic disturbance calls at the couple's apartment over the last 3 months. A neighbor claimed to have a direct view of the couple's apartment. Listen. Okay. Come on. This neighbor, man. This neighbor is sus out of his mind. All right. Like, think about how this goes. A neighbor claiming to have a direct view of the couple's apartment said he witnessed Obumseli strike Courtney about a week before the fatal stabbing. I could not tell if it was open-handed or closed-handed, but he was swinging at her. Well, was he spanking her ass? Maybe they were just filming. Don't hit my queen. What are you doing? Don't hit my queen. Bro, just buy the subscription. You can see it all. It's fine. However, a trio who identified themselves as close friends of the couple alleged the social media model was the violent one in a rocky relationship. We've seen her hit him. I've never seen him hit her, Ashley Vaughn said. So, neighbor voyeur says that angry black man beating white woman. Female friend says white woman beating black man. From what we've personally experienced between the both of them, we believe that Christian wouldn't put her in a position where she would need to stab him to protect herself. We didn't think this is how far it would have gone, Taki Banks said. Even that we really lost Christian only, it feels like we lost Courtney at the same time. People say the weirdest shit. Man, it's like we lost two friends because one murdered the other one or self-defense the other one. I don't even know. Uh, she's more than 2 million Instagram followers, was hospitalized Sunday under Florida's Baker Act. Law allows for law enforcement. 72-hour mandatory hold in a mental institution. It's not criminal or anything like that. It's unclear if or when she will be released from the hospital. However, new content was added to her OnlyFans page the day after she was detained. That sounds funnier than it is, but it's social media and it's professional social media. Likely she just had posts scheduled for release, right? She's like, it's simp day. Here's the thirst trap pic. Anal video to follow. So that's how that goes. That's how that goes, probably. But it is kind of funny, like, well, but is she releasing some sweet padded room sexy nudes or whatever? While specific details surrounding their relationship remain in question, it does appear the couple has been together for several years. Their friend said Clenny and Obumzelli, I don't know how to pronounce this dude's name. Wait, what? What are these articles? Moved to Miami from Texas a few years back. Well, you should know when you move to Florida, like your life expectancy decreases dramatically. You're likely going to be dead really soon. It's just a common statistic in Florida. Someone was asking if they're actually streaming the Edgecombe trial. Likely it will be streamed. The streams are not set up yet. They've still got about 20 minutes, and a lot of these places just start them up right when it goes. So, we'll be. I'm checking to see. Oh wait, that's right. I always had to get these. I always had to get these like from the news thing because Long Crime gone weird about like the Borowski was like, I'm not putting up with this. I think that's the case, but we'll see here. Oh no, here we go. Fox 6 Milwaukee has it ready to go. So perfect. Right here. One waiting. Live stream currently offline. But we've got it ready to go. Back to this. Back to the important stories of the day. Look, women in distress. The group, which reportedly dined, traveled, and regularly socialized with the pair, said they are completely distraught over the situation. He was really just high energy, bright, intelligent, would bring a smile to anyone, Josh Ramsey told WTVJ. These are our two friends we've gone on vacation with, we go to dinners with, we go out of town with them, and it seems like it's straight out of a crime documentary. It is it's now a crime documentary. Either it's a self-defense following a domestic, or it's a murder. One of those two. You're watching a crime documentary, brother. We would have never guessed it would have escalated to this point. We're just shocked, very distraught about this. We're very distraught. So he's got a GoFundMe, for his family or whatever. That someone's selfish act ripped Christian away from this world. It is not enough to say we are shocked and hurting. We are utterly devastated. His loved ones. So his loved ones obviously think it's murder. That's how this thing tends to go. Look at this man's face. That's definitely why I stopped scrolling there. It's a joke. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this. I immediately sent this story to Drexel for his expertise in the situation. And he said, never date or marry OnlyFans thoughts, which I think is probably good advice. But it is possible that this is a self-defensing situation, that there was domestic abuse going on, domestic violence. And domestic violence has interesting self-defense implications because it's actually one of the places where, under the right circumstances, you can self-defense someone even when they're not actively attacking you. He may have a GoFundMe, but she has an OnlyFans. I bet she does 64 grand a month easy. Probably more. 2 million Instagram followers. I mean, if she's not crushing 6 figures a month, I'd be shocked. But yeah, I really hope no one bought an annual subscription. I think the content may be a little slow. But yeah. Look at her pad way more. I'm not into that fetish, dude. But as I was saying, self-defense in domestic situations, it is a little bit of a different animal because some people are trapped in an abusive relationship with an abuser who will, you know, who at any time that they're awake could be a danger. And so it is possible in some states under the right circumstances to straight up murk someone in their sleep if that's the only time to get away from the abuse and stuff like that. This could be a situation like that. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? And we may never know. But it's kind of interesting to see this stuff develop. And I think there's going to be a new genre, right, of internet browsing, we'll call it, as time goes on, right? Like as this all of this stuff keeps evolving in the way that it is, the first thing people want to do is check out the nudes of the latest murderer, right? And now they're out there. Like, like, hey, oh, let's see if she was getting stabbed first. And now you can. And I think that's going to be a big thing. Like, there's probably going to be a website, right? Gosh, I don't know, serial thoughtery or something, right? And it'll cover like the nudes of various thought killers. That's gonna be the new thing. It's gonna be weird. Like anytime soon, because they say this about politicians. Like at some point, there's going like every politician that exists will have nudes from when they were young posted online or Snapchat or whatever. That's gonna be a thing at some point. It's just a function of math. But eventually now it's like every criminal person, like you're going to be able to pull out. It's like, oh, well, it'll be weird. By the way, I'm trademarking serial thoughtery, just in case if you try it, thought crimes, dead hard, killer nudes. That's good. Oh my gosh. It's going to be something, right? There's going to be, because they have like Celeb Jihad and A to Z Nudes or whatever. They have all of these sites that exist for tracking celebrities. And who's a bigger celebrity than murderers? Like the right murder becomes the biggest celebrity. Tiger King, man. Joe Exotic went from weirdo to super celeb after he tried to kill that bitch Carol Baskins. Actually, I'm on Joe Exotic's side. I don't think he did it. I think Carol Baskins set herself up to be fake killed after she real killed her husband and fed him to herself and blamed the tigers. But yeah, so there's that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, I think simping for murder, maybe that, simp for, who knows? Simping for murderers or even murder victims, that's a little more morbid to me, right? Like, I think if you go looking up nudes of the deceased, that's weirder than whatever. Like, I think they leave all those porn stars videos up, but like after they OD on their 86th crack pipe of the day. Who am I thinking? Dakota Sky was like the last one. And then didn't August Ames, or she suicided, right? Was it August Ames? I can't remember. There were like two high profile porn star deaths, then I think they leave all their stuff up. So maybe it's not morbid. I don't know. Okay, let me hit these early super chats so we can hopefully be ready when the trial start or the hearing starts. Matt Hagen says, will the judge sentence the aide who kept getting in trouble? She was, as far as I could tell, she was not convicted of anything. He didn't hold her in contempt. He just kicked her out of the courtroom. So probably not. Probably nothing going to happen to her. And the judge doesn't, like, judges don't want to mess with that stuff most of the time. They just want to control their courtroom. Doug Murray says, rackets in Minnesota. I'm putting my money on life in prison by Judge Vince Lombardi. Rackets, please make an Elden Ring character based on Marvin Zindler and call him the White Knight in blue shades. Thanks. They don't have any of those sweet 80s glasses to put on characters. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Great. How are you? I missed that. You say it's been forever?
It feels like it's been forever.
It has. It has. I was like, oh, Andrew doesn't love me anymore.
You know you're my mentor, man. That's why I'm growing the gray-haired version of the Nick Rekieta face animal.
Yes, it's the way to do it. The only way to fly. I was just covering a potential self-defense. I don't know if you heard about it.
Man, I have been so swamped at work. Go ahead, hit me.
Courtney Taylor, the Instagram model / OnlyFans model.
OnlyFans.
Stabbed her boyfriend / co-star to death.
One stab?
One stab in the shoulder, from all I can tell, and he succumbed to his injuries. So it must have clipped like an artery up in here.
I did a murder case like that just a year ago, actually. A young woman on a bad date, first date gone bad. Stabbed the guy once with a little tiny Spyderco folding knife, but stabbed him in the chest, and it hit the aorta, and
done.
You should have seen the forensic photos from the scene, man. It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting in there.
Oh, no. Here, I can show you. They have her here. I've got it pulled up still. Here's her. She's got a significant amount of blood.
Yeah. Oh, you hit an artery, it goes everywhere.
Yeah. So it
looks like a blood water balloon fight or hose fight. Super soaker.
Well, this was definitely a hoe fight. I mean, that's. But yeah, so she killed. This is her crying and threatening suicide or whatever. Here, they've got a more reasonable picture of. Here's the guy she killed. This is her boyfriend, and
they look so happy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those happy video or happy photos. There's one of those photos. Here they are. You know, so he's dead, and she did it. But it's unclear if there was like
she
domestic
and her
abuse.
two apparent co-conspirators there.
Yeah. Yes, they. It's always a conspiracy with Courtney, but yeah. So it's interesting because I think she's gonna have. Well, I shouldn't say this, but she probably will claim self-defense, right? There's some allegation that he had hit her, but there's also lots of allegations that she had hit him. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always the same, folks. I mean, if she's going to be justified in having killed them and stabbing someone with a knife is certainly a use of deadly force, she's going to have to be able to articulate that she had a reasonably perceived fear of unlawful, imminent, deadly force harm from this guy. And if she can do that to the satisfaction of the jury, I mean, she just has to raise it with some evidence, which I guess these were probably the only two witnesses, right? This wasn't in public. This was probably in their home or something. So it's only going to be her word. So that'll be sufficient to meet the burden of production for self-defense. And then the state has to disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So what state was this in?
Florida.
Well, yeah.
It's a good state for killing.
Yeah.
So speaking of all of that, right? The grand jury refused to indict Kyle Kareth. And
I just did a live YouTube on that. That's what I was doing just before I got on.
You good?
I don't know. I got too many buttons, too many tabs here. Could you grab me a coffee mug, a clean coffee mug? Thanks. Just empty. Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, Yeah, I just did a quick 15, 20-minute YouTube live on that because I was getting pummeled with requests to cover it again. And nothing's changed, folks, in my opinion. It still looks completely like manslaughter to me. Keep in mind, grand jury refusing to indict. Grand juries are driven by a political actor. That's the prosecutor. The grand jury only hears one side of the story. If the prosecutor doesn't want an indictment, there won't be an indictment. That's just the way that process works. So, we can disagree on the facts of the case, but I see enough evidence in the video and the screen captures to support a probable cause that there was that this was an unlawful killing as opposed to self-defense. And there's nothing's changed my opinion on that.
That's one thing I was saying the other day was it's pretty easy for a prosecutor to secure an indictment in most cases if they want to. So either you have a grand jury that is so like, this is Texas, or you have a prosecutor who's like, yeah, I don't really want to do this that much.
Yeah. Like and by the way, when they do that, let's pretend we know that this prosecutor did that, right? He knew he could have secured an indictment if he wanted to, and he didn't want to. That doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad actor, right? I mean, he knows his community. He knows what the jury at trial is likely to look like, and he may have a very solid, reliable impression that, hey, if I take this to trial, there's no way I can win this case. In which case, there's no point to getting an indictment. You may as well end it there.
So if that's not the case though, and it's just the it's Texas rule, right? Like maybe it's the it's Texas rule. Do you think that that Courtney here has a but I'm an OnlyFans girl rule, right? Like where she is a hot white woman and she kills some man. So like it's going to be really hard to indict her anyway. Like he's muscular, he's young, he's in shape. But
the grand jury may not see any of that, right? I mean, again, the grand jury only sees what the prosecutor chooses. The prosecutor just shows a bunch of ugly stab wounds and a corpse on a slab.
What if the prosecutor is the subscriber though?
Oh, well, first of all, it'd be hard to blame him. I mean, until moments ago, I had no idea this young lady existed, but she's pretty easy on the eyes, I got to say.
I just think look, I'm going to take the class action for all the annual subscribers who want their refund. That's what I'm doing. Right. And we'll see if we can get some, settle for some.
Of course, is if the prosecutor just kind of blows his way through the grand jury it's Florida. They don't even need a grand jury. So it would just be an information, just a sworn affidavit by the prosecutor, basically. So he can go to trial on a whim if he wants to, as long as he's not trying to secure the death penalty. If Steve Gosney hops in the comments around that case, he would be a useful voice on Florida law in that respect and Florida procedure. But unless they go for the death penalty, which I don't imagine they would do, they just need an information, and that's enough to drag her into court. Once they're in court, of course, then it becomes a genuinely adversarial process, unlike a grand jury proceeding. And then the jury is going to see all those favorable things about the boyfriend and whatever wacky, crazy stuff is in this girl's, what she may have done. Maybe, I mean, unless it's.
Can you imagine, like, they try and introduce a bunch of their OnlyFans content, a bunch of jurors sitting there watching a bunch of porn videos, like, well, this is awkward.
Oh, Your Honor, we need an extra afternoon recess.
There's a bunch of people like petitioning. They're kidnapping jurors just so they can get the alternates are having the main jurors kidnapped. Like, let me in.
Everybody who ends up on the jury is wearing a trench coat.
Okay, I got a couple more. I've got the Fox 6 Milwaukee whatchamacallit. I've got the stream ready to go for when it starts.
Okay.
So I'm watching. It should be starting.
I'm just here to laugh at the antics of Judge Borowski.
Yeah. I can already imagine being like, I can't believe we're still here. We've been in this sentencing hearing since January. I'm tired of it. I can't believe I've heard these arguments 1,000 times, 100 times. Mr. Lamar, get to your point. Your client's guilty and he's going away forever.
And may God have mercy on his soul.
I hope he does. I hope he pulls this one. Where's my clip? Here we go.
I hope you die in prison as well.
That's what I'm hoping for. Blaine Storm says, great news. Found a lawyer for my case, then found and emailed you a class action that was just filed against Amazon. In other news, I'm streaming about anime and escapism. Already 2 content ID disputes at Blaine's Escape Corner. There you go.
Hey, Nick, your these live streams that you put on YouTube, do they routinely demonetize you?
Yeah.
Afterwards?
Yeah, but I always appeal them.
And then they remonetize you?
Usually.
Oh, good heavens.
Yeah. It's annoying because it takes off the first, like the critical first 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I know my stuff after 2 days, no one's looking at it anymore. You know, it's peaked out.
Unless it gets miraculously resurrected by the algorithm 8 months later. And you're like, why would you show this video now? Yeah, no, it's a great fun little system that they have. But yeah, live streams almost always start out. A lot of times they get demonetized during the stream. This one's probably demonetized because I talked about some chick stabbing someone. JMD Reed. Oh, wait, no. 11 Bravo Crunchy says, happy Friday, Nick. Time for another fish fry supper. If you had an evil twin, he would have a Jay Leno chin, a pencil eraser nose, drink nothing but Fleischmann's vodka and Jägermeister, and be as saintly as Mother Teresa. There you go. My evil twin would be a saint. Sounds good. C. Neil says that neighbor keeps his binoculars on the patio table. Yeah, that was the best one. So one of the people who commented to the news story was a neighbor with a direct view of her apartment who said that he's seen the boyfriend hit her. It's like, how often are you watching, homie?
Did they say hit her or smash her?
Yes. Turns out there's a translation issue. Eddie Oliver says, you think this Christian Courtney thing had anything to do with him trying to throw a mattress in a dumpster in the alley, asking for a friend in Texas? Hashtag Kyle Careth was right. Yes. She was trying to throw out his favorite mattress. He got mad. She got stabby. By the way, that's August is that trial. The dumpster defenders.
Oh, is it? All right. I'll make
yes, they've been consolidated back into one trial. They'd gotten split before.
The father and son?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
That they got split?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like the exact same nexus of facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so they're consolidated back and it's now in August is the current time. So that's going to be a fun one. Stephen Cooper says, show the road rage video from last night to Branca. Oh yeah, maybe we could do that.
You know, I actually caught a little bit of that. YouTube fed me, the algorithm fed me a clip you had with that lawyer you mentioned, possible
Sean.
Criminal or what?
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah.
What it's,
Potentially criminal.
Potentially criminal. Right. So I did see, I actually saw feel free to play it again, of course, but yeah, it's not a good shoot, folks. I mean, the first round or two is probably just fine, but you know, pursuing the guy as he's falling in the street and laying there, you know, bleeding out and shooting him again in the back of the head, that part's a problem.
Yeah, he says, "Make sure you die, you piece of shit." Yeah, and don't come back to Thanksgiving. Yeah, those later shots are a problem. Jared says, "Just going. Have you seen the Whitmer verdicts that have come in? Check Julie Kelly on Twitter. If not, she's been covering it. I had not seen.
This is the FBI orchestrated kidnapping plot.
Yeah, the one with more feds than actual perpetrators.
Yeah, I haven't followed it because it's not a use of force case, but it looks like the usual government shenanigans to me. You know, it's just not that hard to find a bunch of dummies and, you know, talk them into doing something stupid.
Yeah, it's the question will be, will the entrapment defense actually work? I mean, that's the main thing. Okay.
I mean, it's hard because, I mean, basically the defense is, look, I'm a effing idiot.
Let's see. Who's this guy? So this other media channel has something going. I'm still waiting for the actual live stream to start up for Fox 6 Milwaukee. There's another one, Lockhart v Media has some camera feed, but it doesn't look like it's I mean, it's I don't know what they're actually watching on
Hey,
here right now.
did you cover this Michael Barrasone horse farm trial at all?
I did not.
Okay, it's funny. I didn't do the whole trial, but when there was an interesting witness, I would pop it up live, and usually I have to look at a recorded version, a delayed version of the trial. But apparently, of course, I had the law and cuck stream, and and then the judge forced them to shut down their chat on that stream.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly why, but I noted that in their comments, in their whatever they call that, the description, they said, yeah, the judge ordered us to shut down our chat. And unlike some people we could mention, we obey judge's orders. I was like, why don't you just say Nick Requeta?
Again, that's the problem with being subject to the judge's order, where learn about jurisdiction. It's very simple. Okay, here we go. Edgecombe is here. Oh. Wait, this is not Edgecombe.
After Your Honor, Kendra
Or
Lewis
is-
hearing in person in custody with Danica Mott.
It's here for a
Danica
final
Mott.
pretrial. I'll hear from both sides.
This is pre-trial for someone else.
It's going to be prepared for trial. My understanding is defense is asking for another final pretrial.
That's correct.
So they're just taking care of another matter before
Earlier this
Edgecombe.
morning, just updating the court. Our expert, Dr.
This
Fee,
is Frederick
was out of
Edgecombe.
the country until last week in northern Colombia in a remote area. There was limited internet access. On his return, he was sick. He's recovered. He does have
That sounds like the Edgecombe lawyer.
It is Anika Mad.
Yeah.
Is this
Right.
this guy?
Okay. Yeah. I recognize that voice after listening to it. That nasal whine for days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a pre-stream super chat that I
Any
missed.
objection to that?
Dragon's Treasure. I'll
No,
grab it
we
in a
still
second.
have quite a bit of time before the trial, so that's fine.
All right, we'll set an adjourned final pretrial, probably the first week of May.
Oh,
Oh, here comes-
Borowski looks to be in fine form today.
The question is, will his clerk try to like
Who's
murder
that guy?
anyone?
Who's that guy?
This-
Anybody order
this-
lunch? I got a lunch here for somebody. Anybody order I better not say that. Okay.
The bailiffs are now like doing Uber Eats on the side, but it goes straight to the state. That's how they
Yeah.
fund Borowski,
Right.
Borowski's courtroom.
Don't blame the player, man.
The Dragon's Treasure says, never move with American van lines. They'll underquote you, jack up the cost after your stuff is on a truck, pay it all immediately, or else they won't give you your stuff back and put it in storage for $2,000 more /spit.
The
Damn.
most common moving story ever. Happens all the time.
Maybe you should have tipped him, Dragon's Treasure. Do you think about that? Tip your mover. And by that, I mean tip their moving van over. Kyle Bogue says, taking bets on generic Johnny Cochran being held in contempt. Please. Did you ever see the side-by-side video? I think you did, but the side-by-side video of him plagiarizing Johnny Cochran's opening statement.
I didn't, but I saw you mention it, and I just took you at your word that's what I would see if I looked.
It was so bad. Just directly stole it, but with none of the style. Some random Jew says, got my first paycheck with the new job, and they took more than half of my money in taxes. At any rate, always glad to see Branca on the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very kind of you. Always happy to be here. Just been kind of busy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I haven't been covering any trials or anything like that, and I've mostly just been screaming at people, which is great. Rumble username Suck says, Branca, how much does chat need to send to get you to take the tie off on stream? It's Friday and you deserve to relax after a week of hard work, and we deserve.
I
no
sure
tie,
do. I
Branca.
sure do. But it's only 12:30 where I am, so it's a little early to be going no tie, and I've got more work to do today. Hey, can I plug something before we start?
Absolutely. They
folks,
just shut the live stream.
Uh-oh.
They just paused the live stream, which is fine. They're
better.
just waiting for him to come back. Oh no, here we go. Yeah, it's either paused or off, but it should be back in a minute. What do you got to plug?
All right, folks, I got a bunch of free webinars that we've got scheduled. 100% free webinars. We don't charge a penny for them. We've got, I don't know, 7 or 8 scheduled over the course of this month and next month. They're free. We're calling them our hard to convict webinars. They're myth busting, self-defense myths, bringing clarity to what the law of self-defense actually is, showing you a path to go from being easy to convict to being hard to convict. They're under 2 hours in length. They're 100% free, but they're each is limited to 100 seats and they're filling up fast. So if any of you are interested in enjoying a law of self-defense hard to convict webinar, you can sign up at lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict. But if you want a seat, I would grab it quick because we only have seven or eight of these, and they're going fast. We did our first one 2 days ago on Wednesday, and it was a tremendous success. Great feedback from the people that the fully, I say sold out. It wasn't sold out because we don't sell the seats, but it was completely full. And I expect that'll happen with the other upcoming webinars as well. So if you're at all interested, I would encourage you to look at lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict. And I have a little video there explaining what it's about. And if you are interested, you can sign up right there.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. You're like a man of the people. You're out here giving them free stuff. Like, here, listen to this. This is expensive expertise being delivered for free.
For free.
Straight to you. So that's,
of course, you do that every day.
Well, yeah, but
in an OnlyFans kind of way.
Right. We're out here talking about rampant thoughterry, run amok with stabbings. But no, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you got some new stuff coming up. Someone in the chat asked what the next trial I will cover is. It's actually starting technically on Tuesday. It is the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. This will be a civil trial involving celebrities and all sorts of just shenanigans, tomfoolery, and it all around. It's going to be a disaster. Which I
talk
think is
about
great.
A trial that should be about a stabbing.
Yeah.
If there was any justice in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. But that one is coming up. I think the court proceedings start on Monday, but the live stream of it starts Tuesday, is what the court has indicated. But I will be watching it. It's going to be a lengthy trial, and it should be just all around a disaster. So I'm very much looking forward to that. If you don't know, Amber Heard basically said a bunch of stuff about Johnny Depp and how terrible he was to her. And he was removed from basically Hollywood, and he is suing her for defamation and among other things because she completely ruined his very successful career. And he says it's all lies. So that's good. That's good. It'll be fun to watch and see what happens. So I'm trying to figure out what has actually happened with the live stream here, because it is a mess. The live stream is now ended. The other live stream is ended, and someone was like, that's it. But that wasn't Theodore Edgecomb. That was someone else. It was a pre-trial. So I think the other person didn't understand what was going on. So I'm now trying to find if this...
Did Long Crime just pull an Amber Heard on this stream? Is that what happened?
No. I'm not even... I think Long Crime was not broadcasting.
Okay.
On YouTube originally with this, but I'm trying to find if there's anybody covering this thing live. It should have been right there. Here we go. Is this... Who the hell is this? Started streaming 6 hours ago. Okay. Well.
Borkowski's got his own YouTube live stream now. It just runs all day for every case.
What the hell? Yeah. So I'm waiting to see if we actually have anything going on with this. If anyone's covering it, it's supposed to be happening today. Wouldn't it be great if we actually just sit around and don't get to watch the sentencing? And by great, I mean that would be freaking terrible, because I really want to watch Borowski just rip this guy apart. I think that'd be funny. Let's see. This one is still paused, so we'll just see. If they just had that other hearing, they may be having to retrieve him from lockup. I'll try and find if it's anywhere else. I'm checking off of YouTube as well.
All right, I got to mute myself for just a second.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Mm-mm. I wonder if Borowski got annoyed with the coverage before and ordered no media. Rebecca Welty says someone should do a LawTube award show. Best judge, best cross-examine, best opening, best witness, etc. Don Booth says last night Ty Beard was on Legal Mindsets channel. He shouted out his daughter's Twitch, so I went and checked it out. The chat was informing her about our fearless leader of the unbreaded order, Matthew Harris. Oh man. I love how far Matthew Harris has been spread so much farther on the internet than should have been reasonable. But I'm glad. Live now? This says live now. Doesn't seem live now. What we got here? Oh. Okay, we do have a little bit of a live action here. There's no seating left.
All right, back.
Welcome back. I found the live feed. It's not on YouTube.
Oh,
so
that's weird.
Well, if I remember right, this is the one that Law and Crime was pissed off about because Borowski, if I think he's the one who said they can't broadcast on YouTube specifically to the local media. And so because I seem to recall that I was grabbing from newspaper websites the video. Like this is from Fox 6 Milwaukee's website.
Got it.
So I've got it here. I might have to, let me see if we've got the volume cranked. No. We'll get the volume. There we go. That's a little bit better. So yeah, they're now just waiting to bring him in. The Japanese Yakuza 1 says, don't forget to plug Legal Bites covering Johnny Depp. Yes, Legal Bites will also be covering Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard on her channel. And if you want to indulge in her commentary, she is a civil litigator. That's civil laws is in her wheelhouse, and she'll be offering plenty of coverage of that. And I believe several members of the law panel will be over on her channel as well. So feel free to check that out. If you want lots of jokes about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you know where to find them. Speaking of that, tonight here on my channel, I will have that umbrella guy. He has been following this case. He's not a lawyer, but he is a careful listener. He's been following this case for the past couple years through all of its tumult as it has crossed the ocean and came back and all of the nonsense that's been going on. He's going to catch me up on what's been happening, and we're going to be covering prepping for the trial to start tonight at 11 p.m. Central. So you can check that out here. What else? Joey W. Bush says, question for Branca. What's the law behind self-defense against dog attack? If you're concealed carrying, can you shoot the dog, or is that unlawful discharge plus destruction of property?
Yeah, could very well be unlawful discharge, reckless endangerment. I mean, those are the typical criminal charges we see when we see charges in those cases. It could be justified, but you wouldn't be looking to self-defense law to justify that. Self-defense law applies to defending yourself against people because it involves when can you use force against another person. If we're talking about a dog, it's more like a necessity defense, or a lesser harms defense, where it's normally not appropriate to just shoot a dog, but you're doing it because the harm you prevented by shooting the dog is greater than the harm you caused. But you better be right, and it better be compelling, because when the authorities have doubts about the sincerity of your claim, that's when you get hit with a reckless endangerment charge. And with a gun, that could be felony reckless endangerment, which is a pretty serious offense.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen. And if the person has a heart attack after you shoot their dog, then you have just potentially committed felony murder.
And by the way, You've all heard me before advocate that if you carry a gun for self-defense, which I do, you also ought to carry some non-deadly means of self-defense. I carry pepper spray. Pepper spray works pretty well on dogs, and that would be my first choice before I started sending lead around the community.
Have you ever thrown a cat at a dog to stop it from attacking?
Any throwing of cats is justifiable.
Okay, Alinity. Pepsi Man asked when my stream with Medicare will be. That he responded to me on Twitter. I've got to get Jim to DM me. So he doesn't have open DMs, and my original Twitter account that had DMs with him is sayonara'd. So I will ask him to DM me so we can coordinate. But he said early next week should be good. So I'm gonna try Monday or Tuesday because we got to talk about that Sid Alpha thing. It'll be a disaster. It should be fun. And I'm sure other topics will come in as well. While we wait, I'm going to grab some of these early super chats. Music and Fiction says Magnus's kitty is more bruised than yours. Hashtag Edina. Richard Grubber says N. Andrew Hansen says, don't care if it's a jaywalking charge. Any trial Judge Borowski does, you should cover. Yeah, the man's funny. Speaking of funny men, we have an addition to the stream, potentially criminal. How's it going, Sean?
That's going well. How are you doing, Nick? Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
Sean, how are you? Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm doing great, man. Just waiting for them to bring in the star of the show, and by that I mean Borowski. I don't care.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
he's got a supporting actor role.
No,
but we're trying to figure out if B'Ivory Lamar will transgress and draw the ire of Borowski today. Like, I wonder what shenanigans they're going to try and pull.
I just think he's going to stick his foot in his mouth, but I don't know what else they could do at this point other than maybe disparage the widow and more. I think it's probably the only other thing they can do.
That would be good. They get up. The victim impact statement is, it's the woman's fault. It's the wife's fault.
Yeah.
She drove him at me.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. Look, I'm never counting B'Ivory out for entertainment.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to change and all of a sudden know what they're doing.
Let's see. Flufferboy 2004 says, would I get in any kind of trouble for doing a reading stream of some Mises or Rothbard? The trouble would just be that they might, whoever owns the intellectual property rights may copy claim it, just like anything else. It's always a risk. But yeah, I mean, just straight reading of someone else's property is typically like, that's going to be an infringement because that's a product that could be produced by anybody who owns the who owns the correct licensing or owns the property outright. Is they could produce an audiobook. So since you'd be sort of supplanting that, then you would be subject to a copyright claim. Now, if you read it and added a ton of commentary and analysis and criticism and stuff like that, you might be able to get around it, but you can't just do a straight read. Well, you can until someone tells you can't, but you are putting yourself at legal risk for that.
Long crime might copy strike you. Be careful.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Branca. So Sean here got copy struck in the middle of his live stream from Long Crime the other day.
Well, you got that. Yeah. I guess I don't have that kind of profile yet. So far, they haven't come after me, but it's only a matter of time, I presume.
It's
at
amazing.
Least, they're here. They're not wearing their scarves this time. They're going to stick around.
Yeah. And real quick, one thing you could do is you could call the Mises Institute and ask them for permission. They may be cool with it.
Well, if they're super libertarian, they should be cool with it from the start.
Right, and they may be, so.
This is the court clerk giving everybody their marching orders. No texting.
Yeah.
You'll be escorted out. This
also-
judge might have you burned at the stake outside the courthouse.
I heard one say, "Keep my wife's hat off your fucking head." Oh. What do you think? So, Andrew, expert opinion. Could Chris Rock have just lit up Will Smith as he approached him on stage there?
Lit him up? You mean like shoot him? No. No, what he should have done is he should have done like a big, strong front kick and shouted, "This is Jada."
Yeah.
Kicked Will Smith into a well.
Yeah. Just drop him. Will's having quite the negative time after that experience. It's been funny to watch.
I feel so bad for that guy. Just to see someone with, with all the money and the wealth and the fame and stuff, just somehow, regardless, find some way to implode into just a wet pile of garbage. It just doesn't. Why would that have to happen? I just don't get it. Why would you allow your life to turn into that? Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, here comes the boy.
There he is.
Your Honor, I'd like to ride my bicycle into court.
Just so you guys know, sentencing hearings are shit. They are a shit day for the defendant, for the defense attorney. Like you don't want, like, you're done. You're already guilty, and now you're just going to see what horrible thing is going to happen. You can have like some optimism or whatever, but it's tense, it's stressful, it's horrible. You don't want to be there. Stormcrow 900 says, Branca, what if it's, instead of a dog, it's a pig, like a raging pig? Can you shoot a raging pig?
A raging pig. If we mean like a feral pig, I mean,
yeah,
you can shoot anything that's about to cause you death or serious bodily injury for sure, but you better be able to back up that claim of justification. The authorities see a lot of people who are just annoyed at their neighbor's dog and shoot the dog because the dog's annoying and wasn't actually a threat. And that's when you get charged with reckless endangerment.
Afternoon. It's here for a sentencing.
What if the pig keeps sniffing around your teenage daughter?
There have been a couple of documents filed just in the last week.
That's what
10
shovels are
days.
for.
The pre-sentence investigation was filed by the state.
I'll turn it up a little bit more.
Letters on behalf of the defendant, about 25 pages worth, and they have another 25 or 30 pages worth of letters on or related to a victim impact statement and the victim in this case. I'm presuming both sides are ready to proceed. Is that correct?
Better be correct.
That is
Correct.
Your Honor, just for the record, there were some significant differences throughout the trial, but we have set those aside for the purposes of sentencing today. We are ready to proceed.
Fine, great.
What was that? Just a jab at the state?
Yeah,
Tell me
fine,
if anyone
great.
wants to address the
If
court.
we had differences,
Yes,
we
Your
don't think
Honor.
he's
We do have
guilty.
two individuals that would like to address the court. I would note that as the court can see, the victim's family is present. They have been notified. So I would ask that the court find that the state has complied with victim rights legislation at this time.
Fine, granted.
Thank
Fine,
you.
fine.
Additionally, Your Honor, I would note that the state did provide to the court as well as to defense counsel a restitution request, as long with the paperwork regarding that restitution request. I guess
You're going to squeeze restitution out of Edgecombe?
Holy shit.
Agreement or restitution hearing, or if that's going to be agreed
It
to.
was
just
Whitmer,
filed
the
today.
four
It
men,
seems pretty
two not
basic.
guilty,
It's
two
more
hung
expensive,
juries.
but
Wow.
That a boy.
Judge, it appears to be a reasonable request.
I presume this was a federal prosecution?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a train wreck for the feds.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome news. That restitution to cover up the dent in that Kia Soul.
I mean, what are they going to do? Take his beat up 10-speed?
No, but the restitution is actually just giving that very special 10-speed to the one bike specialist super cop.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, oh, he's just gonna sit there and like rub it with oils and scented. He's using
give it-
instant sensor.
Yeah. He'll give it to somebody in his charity he works for, and it's like, this bike helped kill someone.
We have no objection to that.
The
There's
death
no
by
more.
fine. It's a rather
There's no
straightforward
more
request. It's
volume
generally
boost, guys.
expensive.
I have it.
Clearly-
I have it
clearly
600%
compensable
higher,
pursuant to statute in a case
and
like
it's
this.
maxed out.
So based on the stipulation, I'll order restitution in the amount of $4,840. it's payable to Mr. Clearman's wife.
That's all he was worth? That's, I mean, I got like 4,500 in my bank account.
Your Honor, I have.
Well, he was driving a Kia Soul.
Yeah.
Pre-sentence.
It's an immigration attorney.
And there's just one addition that I think should be addressed regarding.
Milwaukee immigration's a rough business, apparently.
Your Honor, the Kia Soul was completely totaled. Yeah, I'll give you $4,000 for that.
I don't know necessarily how much the court is going to place on what I'm about to say, but I just, considering the fact that the PSI spends a significant period of time in page 7 through
709,
referring to the defendant's prior cases, some of which resulted in convictions, some of which did not, as well as I also, having read the defense counsel sentence.
By the way, all this prior conviction stuff, folks, although it's not admissible for trial purposes in front of the jury, it is admissible now.
Yes, it is.
It's admissible. It can be considered for sentencing purposes.
But every time you don't show up to court, every time you've done something to piss off a judge somewhere, it's going to get brought up.
It is not in there. It is case 17 CM 381. It was dismissed. It was a domestic violence battery case. It is the same victim, Ruby Mizell. It's RUBIE.
Ruby.
ELL. That was the alleged victim in the 2019 case that is discussed on page 7 of the PSI. From what I've been able to see, that case was dismissed according to.
I'm going to try turning us all down a little bit.
That case is not in CCAP, so as all dismissed cases are. At a jury trial date, the state had requested an adjournment in order to.
I'm not going to let you silence me, Ricada.
Witness. That adjournment was denied, and the case was dismissed by the court on that date. So that's just for what it's worth. Since every other case has been dealt with, including tickets, I did think it was appropriate for us also to have a full, complete history of that history.
Including tickets.
Now, with that being said, Your Honor, there are two individuals
Such a
that would
douchebag
like to
prosecutor
come back to the
comment.
family. The first.
I mean,
would be
hopefully
the
this is
victim's widow, Mrs.
more palatable volume-wise so people can
Fine.
crank up the rest of the volume. Will Smith is banned from the Oscars for 10 years, too.
Oh, no, the horror. How will he ever recover?
He won't. He's a cuck. He's ever since then, he's never going to recover. Not only was he cucked, it was by his son's friend.
Talk about another relationship that ought to end in a stabbing.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sakes, the way his wife keeps interviewing him about his cuckolding on TV.
Yeah.
EVANJELINA. Clearman, CLEEREMAN.
Go ahead, take your time.
And Your Honor, just one moment. There are a number of photos that the family would like the court to take a look at, if you would not mind.
It's fine. You show them to the defense
I will
first,
do
please.
so.
You just get the state just gets to run roughshod over defendants in sentencing hearings.
Yep.
Judge Borowski. My future did not include writing a victim impact statement. To explain the depth of my mental and physical pain due to the callous murder of my beloved husband, Jason Clearman. My life and our children's lives were forever destroyed and altered on September 22nd, 2020.
Wonder how much life insurance he had. Like she rolls out of the courtroom, walks over to a BMW X4.
The cold-blooded murder of my husband.
Screw that
As
Kia
physically
Soul.
close as I was to Jason when he was shot, I never had the
She probably got-
opportunity to say goodbye.
She probably has a Kia Telluride
to
now.
hold
She upgraded.
him as he took his last breath, to kiss him, or to tell him that I love him, because he was already dead.
It's just as well she would have had to scrape off one of those stick figure decals in the back window of the Soul anyway.
He was already dead
Oh,
when the
God.
defendant pulled the trigger and made the conscious decision to put the
You
bullet
still
in
have
my
your tie
husband
on.
Jason's
You
head.
can't be like this.
I believe the defendant's actions was intentional. You don't shoot someone and pretend you didn't know it would kill him.
In the face.
In the eye.
The physical and mental pain I suffer and I will continue to suffer seeing my husband killed is my new reality. It will be part of my past and future memories. It is part of my daily life. I didn't get a phone call to tell me that my husband was killed. I saw it myself. I will forever have the images in my head. They will be engraved in my memory, and they will be replayed in my head over and over for the rest of my life.
At some point, all these things sound the same, right?
What are people going to say?
I was
Yeah.
a witness in the trial and a victim to the heinous crime that turned my world upside down. And then I was victim blamed during the trial, and because it was shared by the media, people questioned my actions.
I'm just saying, put some
Crushed
effort
my
into your
soul being
misery.
accused of not loving Jason, my beloved husband.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, rub that in their face.
I feel no need to justify my actions. I love my husband, and he knows I love him.
New.
She should walk into court just carrying a big sledgehammer laid on the table in front of her. Your Honor, I have only one request. Can we vacate the courtroom for 5 minutes?
Jason was dead before he hit the ground. I was there and I saw him die with my own eyes. A vision I wish I could erase, and a moment in time I wish could be reversed. I do not need to do. Your Honor, my husband was a wonderful man, loving husband, loving father, devoted. He worked hard for his family, he worked hard for his community. He was kind and caring and compassionate. I will continue to suffer the rest of my life. I would not wish for anyone to bear this pain. My heart will never be whole again. I will never feel complete. I will never fully heal from this tragedy. Our future of growing old together has been destroyed. I will never be able to happily celebrate family events because I will always carry deep sadness, emptiness, and pain, knowing Jason should be with our family, enjoying the life he loved and deserved. My husband does not get a second chance. Our family does not get a second chance.
Yeah,
Take a
to
break, please.
Sure.
sure. The other saying this a bit much. I mean, this is a lot of times for victims, this is a real opportunity for them to revisit the trauma in a way that they haven't done. Because, when you're trauma happens, bad thing, and they're the victim, and then they busy themselves. They're doing court. They're doing life. They're trying to adjust to the fact that they had two people, now they have one, especially husband and wife situations. There are a couple instances though where that all breaks down, and that's when they hit the witness stand at trial. And then the other time is a lot of times the sentencing, and the time between those two events can be long and full of busyness, but she's not busy now. This is it. So they have to dwell on what it is. And a lot of times it's really, really hard for people. And courts are extremely deferential to victims, especially of murders, because I mean, what the hell, like it's the worst thing that can happen, pretty much. Murders and rapes, of course. But yeah.
I don't believe the defendant deserves a second chance. He's a cold-blooded murderer that took a husband, a father, a brother, son, an uncle, and nephew. A friend from a world that was much better with Jason in it. I believe the defendant has a responsibility to face this violent act, senseless act that took my husband, her father, our children's father, Jason T. Clearman's life on Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. What he did not only robbed us of Jason, but makes him a very dangerous person to society. I ask that you sentence this man to the maximum amount of time allowed. It will not change the events of that evening or change.
I ask that you sentence him to be the next husband of Jada Pinkett Smith.
That myself and my children will not be harmed.
No.
I
Will
will
Smith.
have peace
I'll
knowing that
allow
someone
it.
else's life will not cross paths with such an individual who's willing to
I
lie
guess B'Ivory's got nothing to do here except hope for some camera time, right? He's got nothing to contribute.
to my husband.
Yeah.
I love you and I miss you with every part of my being. You have been a loving husband and father. Your life will be celebrated by your family and friends forever, but we all feel your void. Your legacy, your humor, and your ability to make people feel welcome will live on in all of our hearts. Thank you for being my partner, my other half, my husband, my true love. I am so grateful for the time we had together, and my heart will always ache for you. I miss holding your hand, sitting on the porch in the rain, sitting at the farmer's market while the vendors set up
Imagine if Edgecombe tried to give a similar statement. How many words in would he be before Bukowski would shut him down? That's enough. He'd be like, Your Honor, that's enough.
I miss your
We're done
touch,
I'm
here.
reinstituting the
Your
death
smile,
penalty in Wisconsin just for
intelligence, and your
you, just for
worldly
now,
compassion.
today.
I miss your global ideas and vision. You were a man that did what you said you would do and said
Globalist.
what you did.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a eulogy, right? But the judge is going to
I'm
allow it.
sorry
Of
for
course
the
he's going to
people who
allow
have
it.
crossed your path in the future because
They typically have
they
a
will miss
right
knowing
to
a
it
special
enshrined in
person
statute.
that will have made some difference in their life. Your family holds you in their hearts because you are part of us and always will be.
I guess people are
We
jumping
love
in who don't know this trial. So Edgecombe was riding a bicycle kind of recklessly down the street, came close to the vehicle being driven by Clearman, was it?
There is
Yeah.
a letter
The victim here and the wife, and
on behalf of her daughter.
the bicyclist Edgecombe punched Clearcombe,
time, ma'am.
Clearcombe,
Clearman.
in the face. Clearman and his wife followed the bicycle around the corner. Clearman got out to confront Edgecombe, and Edgecombe shot him in the head and killed him,
Your Honorable Judge Borowski,
and then ran away, then fled.
Yep.
I struggled to write this
So now
letter.
she's reading the letter their
The
daughter
emotions
wrote.
and memories
Oh,
of
I
my
see. So
father
So hers is done now.
are so very personal. I wanted to keep my feelings to myself. I
I'd
can't get
forgotten
everything
B'Ivory's
into the
argument that the
letter.
gun just went off by itself.
And it feels wrong not to put down every single moment and memory. So to keep this short, I won't list off everything about my dad that I remember. And I know everyone else who wrote a letter has shared what made him
What if
such an
B'Ivory just
asset
gets up and talks about that White
his
Claw
community
for 10 minutes?
and to the world.
I think the restitution was like for a lifetime supply of White
What I
Claw.
will say is all the
Kids would be
ways
like, my daddy's
my
breath
life
smelled
is
like White Claw
over
all the time.
for not having him with me anymore.
He was
When
our
my
White
friends call
Claw.
their dads or buy something as a surprise, I feel angry. I won't ever be able to share something with him again. When I go on trips, I see plants and I go to take a photo and I stop and realize that it doesn't matter. I can't come home and excitedly show him the photo and ask him what kind of plant it is. I can't introduce guys to him
He'll be
anymore.
pushing up
He won't
daisies, so
be
you
able
can
to
help him
walk
with
me down
that.
the aisle. When I hear
Someone
people
said that they
complaining
were
about the dad,
so sure that the daughter
I
wrote
wanna
this letter. The
scream and
daughter's
throw
like an
things
adult.
and shake them.
In this
Because
case,
I
it's
still
not
get to
it's not like
tell
a
them
my 6-year-old
that
came
they're
in and
sorry.
said how they were really
He'll still
disappointed in
be
global
there to
racial
hug them
politics or
and tell them
whatever.
everything's okay.
Yeah, the whole bus is not clapping right now.
When they see something that
That would be a
reminds them
kid
of
you've
their
got to farm
dad,
out.
they can go home and tell him about it. Every new movie, every song that I hear, I think he might like, I'm reminded all over again that he's not here with me. And I'll never be able to hear his opinion. He won't sit next to me on the couch and tell me word for word, scene by scene, what's going to happen next. Who's going to ruin movies for me? Who's going to pull my toes until they crack while I scream and laugh? or tell me that it doesn't matter because he wasn't the one when I get my heart broken.
Never again will I hear, bitch, get me another White Claw.
I'm never going to get to ask him a question again. He knew everything. I didn't even need Google. Even the stories everyone shares in his memory hurt. I'll hear one I never knew, and I want to turn and ask him, is that true? And then I remember. When someone tells a story and I remember one he told me that was similar, and I can't remember a specific part or the exact words that he used, I grab my phone to call him. And I remember that his phone is at home in a drawer with his wallet. He was so
The
proud
Ivory
of me.
Law says you two white
My
devils
mother
are responsible
my
for
brother
this.
and I. He thought all my artwork
Did
was
she just mention the
exceptional.
wallet again?
1 year for Father's Day, I framed a
The
painting
wallet.
I made in elementary school and gave it to him. And he posted it on Facebook and called it the best gift he's ever
That's the
gotten.
pocket he kept his short sword in.
Mourning my dad is even harder for me because of the way he died and how public it became. Judgment from strangers, input from people with no knowledge of the person he was, and really no idea of what happened besides what went viral. It's like losing him all over again every time I see or hear something about the trial. I can't stop thinking about hearing him get up in the middle of the night and how I
I think the
thought to
wife will pull out
myself,
like a Ouija board and have a
"Yeah, Mom,
statement
I
from the
love it."
deceased.
And
Yes.
I didn't because I thought I had it tomorrow.
I think I would want to do that.
That would be
Respectfully,
hilarious.
Amelia.
More appropriate. I want my wife to do
Thank
that
you.
when I eventually get murdered.
And lastly will be Vanessa Maldonado, the sister of the victim.
Well, there's only 3 victim
Fine.
impact statements. I wonder if they're going to get 27 supporting statements like Smollett got. I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal.
Ma'am, if you can state your name, spell your first and last name for the record.
This is
Vanessa
Kia
Maldonado,
country.
Eanessa.
Holy hand grenade, she was reading someone else's letter, you weirdo.
Go ahead.
Jason Clearman is my friend, my confidant, my mentor, my compass, my hero, and above all,
Hang on.
sorry.
If you're reading, my reporter has to take this down, so just take your time and no rush.
Okay.
The reporter strikes again. The
Jason
worst court
Clearman is
reporter.
my
The
friend,
most powerful person in the courtroom.
my mentor, my compass, my hero, and above all, my big brother. It's incredibly difficult to express the impact his sudden violent death has had on me when it seems like it's limited to writing it.
And the reporter's like a hack hire, government job hire, friend of a friend, relative hire, and everything she types is just garbled nonsense, but they keep her on the job anyway. Everyone's like,
the
oh my God,
shitty
she's so
hand-
fast.
It's like the sign language interpreters that don't actually interpret.
Judge Borowski probably told the chief judge to fuck off a long time ago, so he signed her to him. This is your,
I was
this
not
is your
limited to
sentence.
my own loss. There's a trickle-down effect of emotion.
You'll love this one, Borkowski. She lost her fingers in a sewing accident.
Yeah.
There is no loss greater than theirs. My sister-in-law
Looks like Helen
was
Keller wrote the
130
transcript.
feet from her husband when he instantly dropped face first.
It's just one long, drawn-out moan.
And shot with a gun in the forehead. This is her last memory before seeing him lying in a casket 8 days later. The last image is so horrifically traumatic.
I don't know if the
They have
paralegal is still
temporarily
gathering
erased
evidence on
all great
Facebook or if she
memories.
opened up an OnlyFans. I'm not sure.
Jason's family has lost the most. Their new reality is that their future family events and milestones will no longer include him. Movie nights, bonfires, holidays, birthdays, college graduations, weddings, grandchildren. There are numerous instances when Evangelina has just crumbled because she can no longer hold her aching loneliness and emptiness for the loss of her husband. I have seen her smile and immediately stop because she feels she has no right to be happy without her husband to enjoy it too. I see my niece make attempts to choke back her tears because it's so overwhelmingly hard for her to release her emotions. And then there are instances where out of the blue she will cry. You know that her thoughts are of her father and memories that she wants to hold in her heart silently because it's too much for her to share with the outside world.
The shitty
It's too intimate
camera
for
is
her to believe
it's
anyone
shooting
could
at an
understand
angle
her
through a
pain.
bunch of plexiglass
I
because
see
of
my
COVID.
nephew
That's
who
why it looks
remains
bad.
emotionally silent
I thought that was
in
like
the presence
bulletproof
of
glass
others,
because
calm
Milwaukee's
and
pretty
serious,
violent.
and a sadness
Could
in his
be.
eyes. At 20 years
Because
old,
it's like an
he
elaborate
feels his
frame
role
around that.
is to take care of his mother and sister. He should not have to carry such a burden. I can't escape the words my nephew said to me when I hugged him on the street.
Paralegal
that
pretends
fateful
to be a
night.
cop on
He said,
OnlyFans now.
"Editing is the thing that your father the most." Those words alone
You'll call
put
me
an end
officer.
to pain. My brother was murdered on a Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. It was not a weekend, as T. Edgecombe stated when asked why he had a firearm on September 22nd. He was not carrying a gun for protection because there were a lot of people out and crime was on the rise. He personally
it was
contributed to
Milwaukee.
the increase in crime. If the weekend was when he carried his gun, then my brother would still be alive. It was a Tuesday when my brother was taken from this world. My brother was a man of action, an educator, a leader, an
And he always
advocate,
had and always will
for the
have an
environment,
open mind.
a man of compassion
my
and
God.
empathy. He was a voice for those unheard. He made a difference in everything he did. He believed that small things would reap great reward. He had a vision, small
He
or
believed in
large,
that
and his
very
vision
hard R.
included everyone. My brother did so much in his 54 years, and the things he did will benefit everyone, even in his death. I am proud of him, I love him, and I miss him very much. And I respectfully request that you send
They
him to
clearly
the
don't hire people to
maximum
write these
time
statements,
allowed,
folks.
so that he can take
They
responsibility.
don't, but the
for murdering
advocates
my brother,
explain to
Jason
them
Tyson.
what to say, and they're told to be very. You can't just start swearing in the middle of them. You have to be respectful and articulate.
Yeah, there's a victim advocate who helps them navigate. And that's probably why you get a lot of uniformity in these statements outside of
Your
specific
Honor, there is
details.
no one else from the victim's family that would like to address, so I will begin with my arguments.
All right.
Your Honor, as the court is well aware, when fashioning a sentence, the court needs to determine and take into consideration a number
I don't know.
of
This guy's
factors.
too nice.
The character of the
Oh,
defendant.
he's got a wall of text on his
serious nature of
laptop.
the
Look.
crime, the need to protect the public, the need to send a message to the public and to the defendant that this conduct will not be tolerated, the need to rehabilitate the defendant, and the need to punish the defendant. The court heard this trial. The court saw the video in this case probably more times than you've ever seen a video ever before. So I'm not going to belabor too much the facts.
Really wasn't that many
I know the court is
times.
very
No.
well in facts, and I'm just going to
I mean, I've
highlight
watched
a
Two
few
Girls,
of the
One Cup
portions
more
that I
than
think are
this.
the most important when the court needs to take into consideration the sentence here. I do think a good place for us to start is the character of the defendant, because there are aggravating and mitigating factors that the court needs to consider when attempting to determine the defendant's character and how it leads to what an appropriate sentence is. The PSI and the defendant's sentencing memorandum do highlight the fact that prior to this incident, the defendant only had one criminal conviction. That's true. He then pled guilty to misdemeanor bail jumping and felony bail jumping, and I'll get to those in a minute. The extent of the defendant's convictions up until this incident consisted entirely of one carrying a concealed weapon. The defendant did have a number of arrests, and we've talked about some of those beginning in 2008, and I'm not necessarily asking the court to take too much into consideration on that. I would note, though, Your Honor, that I do think one of the disorderly conduct is important for us to consider. That occurs on December 24th of 2016. The defendant is convicted of carrying a concealed weapon. Some of this is detailed on page 8 of the pre-sentence investigation. What happens on this case is the defendant goes into a store, a convenience store. He is witnessed by the owner of the convenience store concealing an amount of motor oil. When the owner of the store went to confront the defendant, a verbal confrontation ensued. According to the criminal complaint, as well as I believe portion of the PSI, this confrontation escalated. The defendant pushed the owner of the store and then reached into the right side of his waistband and produced a firearm. This caused the victim, according to what he told the police, to fear for his safety, and his words were his knees started to shake. He and the other employee present then went behind the register, which is surrounded by safety glass, locked the doors, and the defendant was trapped inside the store. Police officers arrived.
That's always
The defendant was
embarrassing.
taken into custody without incident.
Yep.
And a black
that scene in
Ruger
Snatch.
semi-automatic weapon. Officers
Won't
could see
open,
was
it's a
sticking out
security
the
door.
waistband of the defendants, and they recovered it.
It was just push, not pull.
The defendant was originally charged with disorderly conduct while armed and CCW, carrying a concealed weapon.
Wait, why was that like attempted
was
robbery?
Convicted only of the disorderly conduct. The
It's a
defendant
sweet
was
plea deal.
sentenced on the carrying a concealed weapon.
That tells me
on-
this didn't
on
exactly go
I
the
wanna
way
make
he's
sure I don't
describing
get
it right
part of
now.
this wrong. In 2017, and in 2017, the defendant was sentenced on November 20th of 2017 to 30 days imposed and stayed, was placed on probation for a period of 6 months, and was provided with 25 hours of community service as well as no contact. That was the sentence that the court decided was inappropriate. Now, I would note that the PSI also does give us an amount or some insight into how the defendant reacted and how he dealt with probation. When he first appears, at his initial appearance, he tested positive for marijuana. He was informed that he would be referred for treatment. And then there is this incident involving burglary, and I'll get to that in a minute. He was cooperative and everything was fine in regards to the arrest. There was a home visit, but unfortunately, then in February of 2018, and then his next appointment, he again tested positive. They discussed options.
I can't believe it.
And then the defendant tested positive.
That's not the
again
Theodore
6 days
Edgecombe I
later,
know.
And then didn't appear for his next 2 appointments.
Yeah,
It's
Sage
like he
Forensics,
walks
yes.
in, they don't even need to test him.
And
It's just
next
like, you're
appointment,
positive.
And then 2 days later is discharged.
Sage Forensics, yes. This is the DA is
discharged
describing previous
With-
cases.
even though within the
Yeah.
90 days prior to that discharge, he missed 2 of his appointments.
This is the show he won't comply with court orders.
That was the decision of the Department of Corrections. I would also note, Your Honor, that while that case was pending, the defendant was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. It eventually was, as the PSI indicates on page 8, amended down to a disorderly conduct ticket. It is a result of what the defendant did while in a Milwaukee County courthouse, on which he became agitated while waiting for his case to became impatient, began using comments and obscenities in the courtroom, and eventually was taken into custody and used profane language and failed to cooperate with directives at the jail. It was amended to a forfeiture. And
They got a dog in the courtroom?
as a result of that, and that I believe is handled appropriately.
I heard barking.
But I do
Maybe it's on my
believe
end.
At least what we can
Wasn't on
see
mine. My
in
dog sounds like a
regards to
squeak
the
toy.
defendant is that while he does have only 1 misdemeanor conviction, there is a consistent pattern of the defendant when it is not going the way he wants, escalate. When he's confronted about potentially there being a belief that he is stealing from a store, he pulls a gun. When there is being a confrontation about being abusive,
I don't have a dog,
Just
folks,
dead
which
ones.
is why it would be really surprising if there was a dog barking in my house.
just so we're clear. I understand many people get upset. I get upset all the time. We talk about
I just imagine
We
when
talked
this guy
about my
loses
bad
it, you
tempers.
got to hold him back, man.
Is that big?
That's my latte.
CCW, I find to be much more concerning because it does involve, as we see in this incident, the defendant going and pulling a firearm in what is either a verbal, possibly a physical confrontation. Now, in this case, the defendant did have 2 open cases. Those are dealt with in regards to the PSI. One is a felony. It was, if I'm not mistaken, a substantial battery and 2 counts of disorderly conduct. That was dismissed. It was dismissed because the victim in that case, Ruby Mizell, did not show and did not come to court. She is the same individual that the defendant was staying with when this incident occurred. There was a no contact order actually in effect when this occurred. So when the defendant gets his firearm from Ruby, which is what he testified to, there was no contact order in place. Ms. Mizell, and I want to make certain that the court understands this, he was never convicted of that because she did not cooperate. In fact, she wrote 2 letters to our office, which were presented to the court, I believe, in which she denied that the defendant did anything to her. She stated she harmed herself and the defendant was just trying to protect her. I would note that according to the criminal complaint,
She also tested
she stated
positive
that
for
she was
marijuana.
hit both at home, which is the same residence that the search warrant was done in this case, as well as in a car. Security video did show her fleeing a car.
I love when
with blood on
prosecutors
her
do this.
face, which
She said it didn't
officers
happen,
saw,
but look, it fucking
as
happened.
well as a conversation in which there is an allegation that he broke a window at the house, as the PSI indicates. And when I read the criminal complaint, it was that the defendant was at her house yelling and attempting to get in, and that his voice was identified by his own daughter. The state was unable to proceed, but I would just simply note that
We would have
unable
won.
to proceed due to Ms. Mizell stating that it didn't happen, although the facts that the police have seem to put that in a little different light. Regardless of it, there's 2 things we know. The defendant was told to do 2 things: don't have a gun and don't have any contact with Ms. Mizell. And he did exactly those 2 things on this day. He also had pending in Waukesha another case that was 20 CM 458. And in that case, the defendant, as it's indicated, was pulled over. He is charged with, as a result, and that happened with, I believe there was an accident, or I should say it's not an accident, it's a crash that occurred in this case that is reflected and talked about in page 7 of the PSI. He had rear-ended another vehicle, was found to be intoxicated, and a loaded 9mm Ruger handgun was found inside the vehicle. He has been found guilty already of the ticket, a refusal to take a.
I feel like this is kind of I feel like Borowski is automatically opposed to B'Ivory or to Edgecombe.
Operating while in
Yeah,
under the
I
influence
don't think they have to
first offense
convince
with
him
the
that this is a
DSU
bad guy.
15. The carrying a concealed weapon, for which he had the 9mm handgun, a disorderly conduct, a resisting or obstructing an officer, an operating a firearm while intoxicated, and then the cause injury with a prohibited PAC, or prohibited alcohol level. That case is currently set for a plea and sentencing on May 13th of this year in Waukesha County. Again, what I would point out is the defendant was released on bail. He was just like he was released on a cash bail and was told not to possess any dangerous firearms or weapons. And then that leads us to this case. So when we look at the defendant's history, under no circumstances is it the most serious, or even comes close to the most serious history that this court or I or defense counsel have seen. It's very,
Yeah, I know they got to put it on the
but
record.
it has
I got it.
portions that are alarming. one of his open cases is for violence. And he's told not to have a weapon. Another one of his open cases involves a firearm. And he's told not to have a weapon. His sole conviction involves illegally possessing a firearm that, according to the allegations, he
All gun laws are
brandished
racist,
during
Mr.
an argument.
Prosecutor. Yeah.
And then we're here for today, where the defendant is on his bike, armed with a weapon that he is not supposed to have as a result of 2 court orders. The defendant has a disagreement with the clearance. I do not believe that the defendant's testimony regarding flipping up on a car and all of that was at all credible. I did not find it to be credible. I will leave the court to take its own conclusions.
That's because there's
Just wanted to give you
literally
my 2
no
cents, Your
evidence.
Honor.
No evidence that it happened.
Is that he came out, which appears consistent with both what we saw in the video of where he was walking as well as what was about to happen, which was he was going into the street coming from the sidewalk. They swerve, some words are mentioned. We know that the defendant,
Some words are
instead
mentioned.
of knowing where he said he was going,
Yes.
which was, I don't know, get some food or something,
Transmission.
goes, and as you stated, he could not allow
Salmon.
us to get away.
Just some random words.
He pulls up alongside that vehicle. He asks if they were talking to him. He then punches Mr. Claremont, and then, yes, he does go on. The Claremonts do make that corner, and the victim does get out of the vehicle and does approach it. I do not agree with defense counsel's characterization. I believe he says that he refers to it as charging. I don't believe that that is the way that I viewed the video. I think that in this case, it is
I just
clear
want to
as
point
all
out
the
there's no
witnesses
nipple
stated
rubbing
that
in this
he was
case.
following him. One witness stated it was
I find it
possible
less than
one
likely
other
that the
witness said
immigration
it
lawyer was
possible
hurling a
that
bunch of
the
N-words out the
just
window of his
possibly
Kia Soul.
Busted up Kia
defendant
Soul
holding
with his
firearm
POC
Yes.
wife.
supposed to have.
I know, but I don't think he's was going down there to talk to him about why he feels oppressed.
He decided to brandish it. Again, illegally possessing. He points that gun and he shoots the victim. There are aggravating and mitigating factors. He did only shoot once, but he did shoot the victim in the head.
Shooting only once is a mitigating factor?
Yeah, since when?
And then what the defendant does after
He efficiently killed this
that, I
guy.
believe, is an aggravating factor. The defendant,
I mean, that's just ammo prices.
he admits to ditching the gun. He takes steps to not get caught. He changes his hair.
I want.
Maybe he
I
spends
want
all day
4chan
home
to
smoking
find
weed
the
and
gun.
playing duck hunt.
He acts as though he has no idea what's
I
going
want
on.
4chan to find the gun like they found what's
The
his name's
police
flag.
were looking for him
He will
in
not
many
deny his
Oh,
flag.
Shia LaBeouf's.
including his family in Florida.
Or like when they found that ISIS
When
camp.
he's arrested, he calls a family member and says, "You know what to do."
Is the
And one of
prosecutor
his
asking
family
for a
members
downward
comes to
departure?
the rental
No.
car that had been rented by Ruby
Yes.
Mazel.
No, this is not a
Got him
child
in contact
pornography
with
case in
because
federal
no
court.
contact order is still in effect. Who he admitted on the stand that he, I think, went and hung out with. So again, that's another violation. And then a family member come and take some things out of the car. We don't know what those were. Maybe it's just clothes. I don't know. They said it was stuff for the child. It did not appear to be. But what we know is that the defendant was doing what he could to avoid being held responsible for what he did that day. From the moment he pulled the trigger until the moment the jury found him guilty, he was doing what he could to avoid being held responsible.
I don't actually like this argument because I mean that's the
And I
natural
believe
state
that
of
is an
things,
aggravating factor.
right?
Yeah,
Now, I understand that the
yeah, that's how
victim's
this game works. He doesn't admit to it.
is
You have to prove
requesting
it.
the maximum penalty in this case. I am not. I do not believe that this is a maximum penalty case.
So now my
I
volume's
explained
higher.
this to the
Jeez, you guys are like my
victim's family.
fucking ex-wife. Just
I'll
I do
manage it.
believe that
tell me
there
if I'm
are
good or
cases,
bad, and just stick with it.
a number of which we must consider. The victim did approach the defendant. The defendant did. He did shoot once.
He
defendant
doesn't
does
think
not
it's a
have
maximum penalty
anywhere near
case.
The significant record that we see in many.
Any
other
predictions?
told
I
you
think
this guy's
45 years.
maximum penalties
He's too nice.
should be reserved for those defendants, the worst defendant in terms of record committing that crime.
I still think 45 as well.
And I don't
Isn't one of the aggravating factors that he was a grown man riding a bicycle on a public street?
Yeah.
But there are significant aggravating factors.
Buying
that
sushi
do
in
require
Milwaukee.
Prison sentence.
They have to fly that in. It's old.
The
Yeah, I don't know if I.
has been
God,
placed on
Milwaukee
probation, that
sushi,
didn't
oof.
work. The defendant was given court orders that didn't work. And in regards to the burglary, Your Honor, that was no process by my office. I looked, there were questions to believe that it could be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. And even if it had been able to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, it would have been something that would have gone to a DPA anyway. So it was not a case, it was no process. I don't think the court should factor it in any way in its decision making. I know it's referenced, and I'll just let you know about that.
Willybot says, Borowski, dear God, we've been here like 500 years. That's how long I'm going to give him. Get out of my court.
For a long time.
You can just put up like a big analog, push button operated counter on the on the bench, looking at the defense. Every minute they talk, he hits the button again.
Amount of, well, let's say vitriol that we
Bam, 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 bam.
towards the end. There was a lot of individuals that attempt to make this case something that it is not. This case should be viewed simply as to this defendant and what he did that day and nothing else. And that is the way the jury convicted.
It's an ILM case. Immigration lawyers matter.
Come on, you know that isn't true.
The defendant started.
Okay, there's a
fist
poll up,
fight.
guys, with some sentencing ranges for
And
the
when an
chat to
individual
determine.
came who he had punched in the face, he pulls a gun and he shot
What they
him.
think it will be or what they think it ought to be.
And that is the way that
What
this
they think it
court
will be.
should appropriately sentence this defendant. That and those are the only factors in the prism. In
He
which we should
drew
do this
the
case.
most like
And nothing
reasonable
else.
prosecutor
I know,
throughout
it's
this
amazing.
trial.
Everything else is
It's amazing.
This guy's
We're-
like, well, I'm not
we're
going to
the
go after
canines.
them. I'm not going to show the body a whole bunch in
And that is unfair to
pictures.
the defendant,
I'm going to
that's unfair
censor
to
the
victim.
pictures so it's not horrifying.
And
Who are you?
that leads
This is not a maximum penalty case. He pulled a gun and shot a man in the face after
Well,
punching him on his
further
bike.
division
Like,
of
Someone in the comments is asking, what did Edgecombe do again? It's like, way to come late to the show, my friends.
is that this is a case of, can we just admit that guns are not the answer to problems?
No, it was
This
the answer to
court
this
knows
problem.
better than
Worked
you.
out.
But in the last 2 years, since this homicide,
It's not
rate
usually
went
the
up,
answer, but when it is the answer, it's usually
I
the
mean,
only
in
answer.
proportions that the state has literally never seen in its entire history. Milwaukee
no,
has
guns are
never
so
had this many
bad.
homicides. We set a record in 2020. We broke the record in 2020.
we did it.
And unlike
Yes.
what we saw in the 80s or even 10 years ago when we had the brief spike, which was when heroin was going out of control, this wasn't as a result
Right.
of
Your Honor, we don't dare have the
guns.
political right take over here like they did in Kenosha.
It's literally people engaged in
I wish I could sit here with the
arguments
reloading
and
press
pulling
while he's
guns
doing this in front of
and
him, just
ending
cha-ching, cha-ching,
with a
cha-ching.
bullet. This case is like so many the court has seen.
What press do you use, potentially criminal?
Well, I'm actually got a Dylan on order, so
The defendant
Which one?
stated on the stand that he took the gun because he needed to protect
which
himself,
it's
but the
I just
only
got it's gonna be
person
for 5.56. Just I wanted to. I've got
that
like
had
almost a
firearm
barrel
in
full of
this
brass I
encounter,
need to do
the only
something with
person
that I've
used
collected over the
a
years.
firearm
So
in this encounter, the only person that had a firearm
felt like such a hoarder. I
neither
never
one of the
like I was
two
like, oh, I'll
cases
start reloading
that
someday.
result
10
from
years later, still
disagreements
nothing.
that the defendant was involved in and result in his convictions.
I've got a 650 XL I've had for maybe 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan makes a good product.
So with all of those factors, we need to consider
We just
what
gotta
is the
find
appropriate
primers now.
sentence.
We recommend parole with no jail.
Your Honor, I do believe that the defendant should.
You'd like him sentenced to riding a bicycle with flat tires for the rest of
I
his
do
life.
believe that an appropriate amount of initial.
Your Honor, we can put him
confinement
outside a
in this
Kia
case would be
dealership,
25
and that
years
way
of
there'll be
initial
no more
confinement.
souls on the road.
I do believe that an appropriate amount of extended
25?
supervision would be 13
What?
years of extended supervision. That would be a total sentence,
Wow.
38 years.
So recommending
believe that
25?
Is where
Jeez.
takes into account the aggravating and the mitigating factors.
God,
that
if I
I've
was
talked
him, I'd have
about.
been asking
I
for
think there's an
40 at
appropriate
least.
sentence. How the court wants to set that up, whether or not it does it all on the homicide and then does the sentences on the bail jumpings concurrent, or if you split them up, I'll leave that to the wisdom of the court.
He drew the
think when we
nicest
consider
prosecutor on the
what
damn
happened that night,
planet.
Wow.
as well as the character of the defendant. My recommendation is appropriate, and I'd ask that you follow it. Thank you.
It sounds like
Defense, Your Honor, we have nothing to add to that.
yeah, we'll take that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we begin,
He's like
we did have
struggling. to say, I
4
do believe he
individuals
does
who wanted
need
to make
prison.
brief statements
Yeah,
on behalf
he
of Mr.
murdered a man.
Edgecombe.
Fine.
The first person that
Fine.
would like to speak is James Bray.
I said,
It's like a soccer generation lawyer. Everybody wins. Everybody
Pig
gets a
riser.
trophy.
I sentence you to jog from now on rather than cycle.
Good Lord. I cannot believe they recommended 25 years. Like that's amazing.
Hello. State your name, spell your first and last name for the record, please.
My name is James Bry.
Oh my God, sounds like this guy was shot in the head.
Bry, B-R-E-Y.
That's Bray.
I'm a retiree from Wisconsin Electric Forestry Department, and I'm currently a volunteer at Beckham Stapleton Little League. This is where I met Theodore, and I've got to know him through his volunteerism with the children as a T-ball coach.
And a marksmanship instructor.
The image I have of Theodore
Quick draw competitions.
is very
Yeah,
different.
he always taught
than
those
what
kids right for the brain
has
box.
been presented. I've known him as a compassionate father, a leader for the children. The image that I have on my phone is really from a picture
I don't
taken at
care.
the
Move it along.
Little League night in Miller Park.
Such a nice
And,
boy.
Theodore has a baby strapped on his chest and holding his
And
daughter
2 9mm
in his
strapped on each
hand
hip.
and leading his team for the on-field parade. And children from other teams are coming around and looking at this site in awe because he has really presented himself as a father figure and as a community person. And this is the image and the knowledge of Theodore that I have. And I just would like to share that with you. Thank you.
Fine.
Fine.
Counsel.
Next, we have Julie Abrahamian, who is his great-grandmother.
Could be like, Jesse, I gotta go to prison if you send him.
He was always a straight shooter.
Ma'am, if you can state your name, spell your first and last name, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Always
My
picked
name
up his
is
brass.
Julie, Julie, Abrahamian, Abrahamian.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to talk about Malcolm. We call him Malcolm, that's his middle name. I wanted to talk about him and his grandfather, who I was married to, that how they're close, like father and son. And I know Malcolm. I've been knowing him since he was 13. And the person that everybody's
She's
talking
been knowing
about
him since he was
is not the
13.
person I
Is this
know.
like a Jar Jar Binks witness?
He's a great father. He is
Yes.
a great father. He has
Yes, I
babies
know
from
him since
age 1 to
13.
8, which I see 3 of them almost on a daily basis that I watch the children. And the 6-year-old, the little boy, he's in therapy behind this right now. And he is always asking us to get his daddy out on bond. And he's acting out a little bit because it's affecting him. And he cries for his daddy every night. And then the
Showing
8-year-old
violent
is the little
tendencies.
daughter that,
Yeah, to the
he went
chat,
to get the
the
food for that
the
night down
judge
on Brady
can
Street, and she's saying, "If I
sentence
would've
him to
never
whatever
asked my
he
father
wants
to
within
get the food,
whatever
this
guidelines
wouldn't have
Wisconsin
happened," and
has.
she's
He doesn't
blaming
have to follow the
herself. So
recommendation.
it's pretty traumatic for the kids. And
But a lot of
that's the
times they
most proudest
will.
thing that I wanted to say about Theodore is he's a great father. That's
I thought
the
it was
most proudest
Malcolm.
thing. You're a great father, and I love you. And the thug mentality, everything that they're talking about with the thug is not what I see. I see a different person. I see a loyal person.
Your Honor, we call him Martin.
His
We always call
grandfather
him Martin
passed
Luther
away
King
last
Jr.
June.
at home.
He had flowers sent to me. He was going on trial.
When he
for
was
his
little,
life,
he asked to be
his
referred
right
to as
his life.
Dr. Mandela.
He had flowers sent to me for the passing of his grandfather. And I just thought that was so selfless of him, because that's the person I know.
Did he write while he was on the run for
other
6
thing
months?
is he's loyal. He shows up for everything. If we call him to move, if everything we ask him to do, he comes. He's very loyal. He's the most
Well,
loyal
probably not
person in
in
the family.
not lately. though.
He's got a shoebox full of all the postcards he sent while he was a fugitive from the law.
I love him, and this is just not the person
Wish
I
you were
know.
here.
And when I did see the video that night, I thought he was coming home. I thought he was coming home. You know, he's not a perfect person.
He'll be coming home in about 45
But
years.
what I saw is that he was trying to leave that scene. He was trying to go. He's not a killer. He's not a killer at all.
He
I wouldn't
literally
Well, he's-
was a
he is
killer.
a killer.
If he would have been wanted to kill him, I'm sure it would have happened before that. He's not a killer.
He would have killed him the week prior. I mean, come on, Your Honor.
Told me that, and that's what I believe. I believe him.
I
What
always
kind of
loved that.
killer rides a bicycle?
They have a lot of opportunities to kill him sooner, but they
On
didn't.
that corner of that bridge either. So I just wanted to tell you.
He
that
only
he's
shot
a
him in the
great
head
father.
once, Your
He's
Honor.
Yes.
Perfect? No, I'm not perfect either. But I just wanted
I've
to
shot
say
several
something.
people, actually.
He's a
I'm not perfect, Your Honor. We've all been there,
Thank
shooting
you.
people in their Kias. We've all had that thought.
Your Honor, major mitigating factor is this was an immigration lawyer victim.
Fine.
She
We've all
just,
met those
his
people.
mother comes up and says, "It was a Kia Soul, a Kia." Everybody's justified.
Hello.
You can spell your name first and last, please.
Sonyya, last name is Gordon.
All right, go ahead, please.
Sonia
I know you
Gordon,
deal with a lot of cases.
savior
and a lot
of the
cases
Theodore.
end up with individuals being menaces to society.
Your Honor, this is the 20th time I've had to appear in court like this, and I'm just done.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this information about my son, but
Oh.
because it
Uh-oh.
should be known and noted. I'm asking for the minimum sentence for my son. He's a human being with rights. No,
No
my
kidding.
son was not a doctor, a lawyer, or Indian chief, but he could have been.
He wasn't an Indian
That
chief.
society has a way of playing various roles in our lives. My son dealt with society, but educated himself at the same time. Educated himself on being a Black man, learning
I'm not a
about his
doctor, but I
strong
could have been.
heritage, as well as education just in general. My son had what I thought was behavioral issues in grade school, which turned out he was not being challenged enough. In third
I'm sure that
grade,
was the
he had
problem.
in the
Yeah.
fourth grade reading and math
We enrolled him in
which
marksmanship
showed
classes.
how
This was
smart
all
and
our fault,
intelligent he
actually.
was.
Yeah, I know.
and what he
MIT's
saw
physics
in him.
department is
He
missing his
graduated from high
presence.
school and went away to college in Florida, studying criminal justice like his mom and dad.
we would play family word games at home, and every time it was his turn to put a word,
His word
come
was
up
always
with
bang.
ended up being a word my family and I would challenge because we were unfamiliar with the words. The words used
Don't
would
say
be in the
jokes.
dictionary,
Don't say
no
jokes.
doubt. Later on, I found out a secret from my son that he was carrying, which he thought was a bad thing that he had done. That one thing was when he was younger.
read a book.
He
used
helped
to sneak
too
and
many
read my
orphans.
college books. My son is unique in his own way. He loves wisdom. He'd sit and listen to my dad, his granddad, and any other older individual that had a story to tell. I know
Except
you
for
all heard
Clearman.
the phrase, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Well, when my children were young and fought each other, everyone got in trouble and suffered the consequences. My son was not everyone's buddy here at the courthouse or in a legal family, but he has
He was
lots
that
of
familiar
people
with the
that love him,
courthouse?
whether it's family or friends. It's always that person you can count on for anything. He has been a one-man show helping people move.
I mean, the person I really want to hear from here is Theodore's father.
Mentor, good listener, provider, and the list goes on and on. 2 of his older children are older. Well, that doesn't make sense. 2 of his children, the older children, he was in the process of teaching them about their heritage. When Theodore was young, I'd have him and his siblings read an autobiography once a month and tell me about it. We have photos of him
John
riding
Wilkes
the
Booth.
bus at the rally for George Floyd before all of this. He had his oldest child with him, teaching and explaining to her how some people can be so cruel and evil, that all lives matter. Also, talking
Except
to her
for
about her
immigration
rights,
attorneys.
so she would understand and not be lost in society. I wish his 2 oldest could be here so you can listen to how intelligent they are to listen to what he has instilled in them.
They can disassemble that Glock
If you're
blindfolded.
going to sentence my
They're so
son,
skilled.
I ask that you take leniency on him because he doesn't deserve what has happened to him.
Oh, what happened to him?
That led
Wait,
to
what?
an unfortunate death.
He doesn't deserve what happened to him. I mean,
Thank
that
you.
immigration lawyer put his head right in the path of that bullet.
We have Rose Scott.
Yes.
Who's just trying to do some pest control in the neighborhood?
Fine.
Fine. Borowski said 12 words during this entire hearing. I wish every judge were like him.
He's spanking them up.
If you have a couple more witnesses, I will
If you can
finish
state
my
your name, spell your
Sudoku.
First and last name, please.
Russ Scott, ROSC-SCOTT.
Go ahead.
Dear Judge, I met Theo in November 2021, and my greeting to him was, hello,
She
grandson.
met him in 2021, last
My
year.
age, wisdom, immediately
Like a jail
informed me
counselor or something, maybe?
that this young man needed support, love, to become a contributing member of society. Yes, I have supported him since that time to try and obtain his freedom. I attended
Yes.
court, rallies, and yesterday witnessed his marriage to Ruby Mazel.
Oh, he got married yesterday.
Last Tuesday. Your Honor, clearly the tragedy.
I mean, this
of the
continuing
victim's
good judgment
death
is
has been
really
reported.
humbling.
However, blame should be shared with all 3 individuals. I agree with the Clearman family. The loss of a loved one leaves a forever void.
Domestic abuse to
I am
domicile.
grieving with
I mean,
Theo's
does the prison
young
provide
family
like an orange
at
tux?
the possibility
The Ruby
of
Mazel
losing their
story.
dad to years of incarceration when they need him the most.
It'd be like one of
Theo
those
is only
Hallmark
32
romances
years
they
old,
release around the
great
holidays.
individual,
Yeah.
Did
making
she just
equal
sign up for the restitution
contributions to
effectively?
society. Please release.
Legally, I
Theo
don't think she
and take
can.
him home.
Sometimes
Police-
love is right in front of
Give
you.
him the least
Other times it's an
small
immigration lawyer. Choose
justice
wisely.
ever.
Yeah. Hallmark movie,
wanna
A
speak
Christmas
to-
Parolee.
His saying that I didn't mean to do it. I'm a Black woman who grew up in Georgia in the 40s and the 50s. And we were
But he's not.
groomed And
We were chased by immigration
taught,
lawyers everywhere.
don't go there because you'll get into trouble you'll never get out of. And
That
when I
turns out to
heard
be
that
true.
statement here, I thought, he didn't mean to do it. He didn't want to kill anybody because he's not that type at all. But faced with that, he said,
He
one
pointed a
word,
gun at a man's face and pulled the trigger
and you have to understand the scenario
after punching him.
of his fear. His fear is the same fear that you see with most Black men. It was worse when I was a child growing up.
You
There
think?
was a deadly, embarrassing fear that I saw from Black men that truly embarrassed me. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Yeah,
Why
this was
you
just like
afraid of?
Mississippi burning.
But we
just
have
like
a
it.
reason to be. So when you hear him say it was self-defense, it was self-defense for him. Thank you.
For him.
Oh, for him.
Thank you.
Wow.
Jeez. Well, hey, she's standing
Hope
by her
that's
man.
the last one, right? Please, God.
Faith Diamond. She grew up before the Civil War.
It's what, 5 now?
Was they going to bring up someone who met him last week?
As for my remarks,
The daughter never got her sushi.
as opposing counsel noted, this case involves
B'Ivory's not
an
doing it.
escalating dispute between two citizens one summer evening in September 2020 on Brady Street here in downtown Milwaukee.
Maybe Johnny Cochran never had to give a
The
sentencing
case,
statement.
it is certainly a tragedy. And
I don't know
what to
justice
do.
I'm
with
out of my
great
element
interest
here.
in this
This
case
is the smarter play.
with vastly differing opinions. Today, the court is presented with a very difficult task in fashioning the appropriate sentence in a hotly contested case.
You know, I'm glad I have gray hair and I'm not going
Now,
bald.
Mr. Edgecombe, he
Holy
was
crap.
found guilty by a jury of his peers, and that verdict has to be respected today. This is a case that requires a prison sentence, no doubt. But I feel, Judge, that this case is quite different from the vast majority of cases that come before the court. It is not a case that involves
Really?
a gang-related shooting or a drug-related transaction.
Oh, I forgot they
Is
were
he
in
saying it's
Milwaukee.
different because it's not a black on black crime?
Or a vehicle was riddled with bullets with a cold-blooded intent to kill the target, and at the same time recklessly endangering the
Actually,
safety
on
of
the
others.
record, it was
It
cold-blooded,
did not
according to that
involve a
witness.
Domestic violence escalation
The hostile
that resulted
state's
in
witness.
someone's death. It was not a case between two
Cold-blooded.
parties that had a violent history together.
Cold blooded.
Nor did it involve any sort of premeditation or intent, or accompany any sort of crime as in a felony murder case like an armed robbery. The point is,
It's only
Judge,
'cause they
this
didn't charge
case
the
was
assault.
completely random, it was unforeseeable, and it suddenly turned the lives upside down for two men and the loved ones. of both
One of
parties.
them a little more upside down than the
These
other.
men were
Yeah.
total strangers to each other and were
One was
otherwise
a little more
going about their
horizontal.
normal daily lives on a Tuesday night in downtown Milwaukee.
Theodore was
Just
getting
trying
sushi
to
for his
enjoy
daughter. Clearman was driving
the
around
last days of
downtown saying
summer.
the N-word like he always does.
This case is about as random as a case can be. And ever since the pandemic began about 2 years ago,
COVID did it.
Milwaukee has been experiencing
Yes.
an alarming increase in violent crimes, shootings, and homicides. And I can only speculate, Judge, as to what has caused this staggering increase.
It's the vaccines, they
Knuckles
drove
noted
everyone
that
crazy.
Guns are clearly not the
That's a
issue.
joke, Susan.
This case did involve a gun. It also involved a vehicle, which Milwaukee has seen lots of crimes involving that as well. What we do know about this case is it happened pre-vaccine in September of 2020. And back
Pre-vaccine?
then, Your Honor, I do remember people were on edge. It was tense, it was scary to be out in public.
So he thought he was going to
At
get
that time,
COVID, so he acted in
people were
self-defense.
We all had heard stories that summer of people snapping out in public,
Jason Clearman wasn't wearing a mask. He was a threat.
department stores, or during protests. I think it's fair to say people's mental health during that time was poor. And I
They were all
believe
just
this
really
especially was
stressed
the
out. There were
case
tons of
back
face
in
shootings that
September of
happened.
2020.
Your Honor, we all know there's not an immigration lawyer left alive in Milwaukee.
We had the situation of the Kenosha riots just south of here, 30 or 45 minutes. So looking at the overall context of this case, I think the court can consider this case is unique in that it just involved two ordinary citizens who were complete strangers and did not otherwise involve
One ordinary citizen
sort
with
of
several gun
criminal
charges,
activity.
suspended
The
concealed
short
carry,
fuse that people
illegally
were
carrying
experiencing during
again.
the Pandemic, after being isolated, after being pent up, quarantined, I feel that that was likely at play here and resulted in both parties suspending their judgment and escalating an otherwise avoidable situation. The loss of life here is a tragedy, no doubt. It's also heartbreaking that Mr. Edgecombe, with a very limited prior record, a misdemeanor conviction, coming from an otherwise stable, normal upbringing, hardworking mother, father with a law enforcement background, as noted in the PSI, a man who stayed out of trouble for 30 years of his life, now is facing a sentence, a very significant amount of time behind bars.
Well, he killed somebody.
Yeah, he didn't kill anybody the first 30 years that we know
He
of.
jumped in the deep end pretty quickly.
And I'm not interested in litigating a self-defense, the merits of that today. But I did want to talk about some.
You failed litigating the merits of his self-defense claim. You already lost that battle.
Regarding how the parties that night crossed paths, the Clearmans were coming from Scaffidi's after a night at the bar.
Drunk off their ass.
Picking up food at Dynamite on
I bet
Bates
she would have
Street,
failed a field
had
sobriety
to
test if they actually tested her.
And as we heard from one of the speakers today, the daughter now blames herself for what happened that night. Eventually, they crossed paths. Counsel indicated that he did not believe Mr. Edgecombe's version of events. We know for sure, Judge, is that Mr. Edgecombe was almost hit or was clipped or grazed.
We know that.
Clearman's testimony indicated that she had to swerve to avoid hitting him. Mr. Edgecombe testified that he was knocked over. As far as there was a lot of time that was spent during the trial on the investigation the police did in trying to obtain any video surveillance footage of that. And while that's not the most important thing in the case, certainly the least relevant of the three possible videos in the case showing the three different encounters, if we had that, we would have understood what exactly occurred. And it would have been important to take that into account in terms of Mr. Edgecombe's fear that night and what had prompted that in the overall context of course, a series of events that occurred all within a few minutes. The police did do some investigation, but it appears that it didn't extend all the way to the paths that the Clearmans had coming down Brady.
And why is that? Oh, yeah, your client ran.
Yes, he didn't tell them where to look.
Many times, what we see is a punch Mr. Edgecombe threw at Mr. Clearman suddenly, and it seemed to be a very strong punch, which begs
At
the
this
question,
point, B'Ivory may have been a better
why
choice
would
if
a
this
man
was their
just go
plan.
up to another man and punch him in the window if it was a minor incident? It's really
Well,
hard
he's
to
your
say.
he's your client.
Clearly,
You
it
ask him.
Mr. Clearman so much that he wanted to confront Mr. Edgecombe at the time. Completely understandable. I think anybody in Mr. Clearman's position would have wanted to do that. Mr. Edgecombe fled, however, on his bicycle, as we saw, and that's why this case became tricky. Now, putting that all into context,
He fled on his bike until he
certainly
fled in
Mr.
a car,
Edgecombe
until he fled across
was
state lines. And
clearly wrong in throwing that punch. And during his
He took the
testimony,
gun across state lines, for real.
he was also wrong for having a firearm that day, and he entered his plea in this case before the trial.
The speech should have come from the paralegal instead.
he entered that plea to try and keep the fact that they were going to hammer him on that gun charge over and over. It was a very strategic plea.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
Yeah. It was the right move.
What
Let's not pretend that he did it because he was
vehicle
accepting responsibility for his
pursue
bad
Mr.
actions.
Edgecombe.
Except then Theodore opened the door when he
With all
took the
due
stand
respect to Mr. Clearman and
and
his family,
let it in.
I'm not interested in tainting the memory of a loved one.
B'Ivory's like, I am.
And I think
We
with
don't want
all
to taint his
respect,
memory,
Mr.
but
Clearman
fuck
was an
that guy.
attorney, Opposing counsel, a counsel seated here at the court. But Mr. Clearman also was an officer of the court. He was a man of law. He was an attorney. I think we all can agree that it would have been more prudent that night to either gone home or
To
have
shoot him
called the
twice.
police, not take matters into your own hands.
Oh, they're victim blaming.
Yeah. He's an officer of the court.
If you look at into what all the parties could have done, clearly Mr. Edgecombe could have done many things differently. The Clearmans also could have decided not to pursue Mr. Edgecombe. They did pursue him. If they wanted to speak to him, they certainly, that's also very understandable.
In order to be an aggravating factor, how many times Edgecombe testified on cross that he couldn't understand the question?
These are some mitigating circumstances.
Can you repeat that?
And you see Mr. Clearman attempt to intercept Mr. Edgecombe, and then at the stairwell, there's a confrontation. How we want to characterize whether it was an approach, jogging, running, charging, was all kinds of descriptions of that scene where we see
They're not that many
Mr. Edgecombe,
kinds of descriptions.
Sorry, Mr. Clearman, closing the gap. And then, as counsel noted, there's one bullet that goes off.
It just goes off.
His credit, it was only one shot. On the other hand, counsel's correct that it was a shot to the head.
You don't get credit for only firing one shot if the
Conduct,
shot was an
the jury
accident.
Found to be reckless with utter
You either
disregard.
consciously chose to make one shot, which I guess is mitigating, or
And
you
that's the
didn't
crime
you
that
didn't
Mr.
consciously choose to shoot
Edgecombe
at all.
is being sentenced on today. So it wasn't an intentional act, as per the jury's verdict, something that was so reckless. Now, in
Typical
the
white man
sentencing
trying to pick
memo
apart
that I
this
submitted
attorney's
to the
argument.
court, there is some
Shame on
discussion
you.
about utter disregard. And what I thought
I
was
wouldn't dwell too
important
much on it, Anik, because
that the court can consider in terms of
if you start looking into the jury's reasoning for why they pick second degree over first, you don't want that analysis.
For excuse. And the Court of Appeals and the case law has said that actions taken in self-defense, while not antithetical to utter disregard, are inconsistent with utter disregard. I think that's something that the court can consider in terms of mitigating circumstance. The Court of Appeals has also instructed courts to look at, and for juries to look at, the type of act, nature, why the perpetrator acted as he and she did. And I don't see any other motive for Mr. Edgecombe acting the way he did if he was the one that was being approached or ran at or charged at.
That's the false idea that a motive is somehow required to prove the action.
Wasn't only to talk to him, but perhaps to have some sort of response to the punch that he had suffered, unfortunately.
Unfortunately suffered.
So I
The
think
fist
that
just
is
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Your Honor. And as far as
Your Honor, we'd like the maximum passive voice
jury's
on this.
verdict, that has to be respected.
We just stipulate passive
This
voice
case does
throughout.
not require a specific minimum amount in terms of incarceration time. In addition to that, the law requires the court to consider the minimum amount of incarceration to meet the primary sentencing objectives. Now, Mr. Edgecombe had testified.
I really hope I don't
at trial,
sound this bad when I give
and his
arguments during
testimony was
sentencing. Holy Jesus.
confusing to many viewers and counsel alike.
There, Borkowski go. All right, the sentence is time served.
Did want
Just fucking with you.
Yeah.
public to know
That'd be ridiculous.
certain things about what transpired.
I'm going to sentence you to as long as your closing argument, which was really eternity.
Mr. Edgecombe would like everyone to know the following.
Yeah, Borowski already knows all
Mr.
this.
Chairman,
He's already
I
decided
realize
what the
that I
sentence
have
is going to
killed
be.
another human being, and that weighs heavily on me to this day, and will continue to for the rest of my life. Although I was angered by Mr. Clearman for what he said when his vehicle struck me, I should have not have punched him, and I wish I'd never taken that action. I never expected the situation to escalate as quickly as it did.
Had Clearman plugged Theodore
When
as he
I
biked up
described
next
the
to
gun
him to
just
deliver
going
a
on my
punch,
trial,
these people would not
I meant
would
to
be
say I did not even remember pulling the
would have
trigger.
been arguing that that
Everything
punch,
happened so
like they would have
fast,
been representing
and I was
Clearman.
startled
Yes.
once Mr. Clearman was only a foot away from me. I reacted in the heat of the moment, and I do not believe I could have reacted in a different way, honestly, under these scary circumstances. It was an involuntary type of reaction without any deliberate or premeditated intent on my part. I was in shock and disbelief once I realized what had happened. I do understand I was not able to legally possess a firearm at the time, but I still feel that had I not had the firearm that evening,
It's
I
like
may have
every
been
time
seriously
anything gets
injured
mentioned about this
or
case,
killed that
it
night.
just looks worse and worse for
I believe my
Edgecombe.
actions were
Yes.
self-defense, but I understand that a jury determined that my actions were reckless in nature. So with that being said, I ask that the Clearman family find it in their hearts one day to forgive me. I also would like to express my apologies to my family.
I'll coach your kids at T-ball for free.
Your
Please,
Honor,
please forgive me.
and the court. I would ask
He could be
that
the
you have
GM
some
of the
mercy
prison
upon
league.
me, and may peace and blessings of God be with everyone affected. Thank you. In summary, Your Honor,
Oh,
this shooting was not an intentional homicide in the first or second degree. It was not a shooting that was with an act of hate or malice. It was
Wait, did the
one
jury
bullet,
actually say unintentional
not with
second
the
degree
intent to
homicide?
kill,
Was that?
I thought it was reckless.
but with an unreasonable defensive measure. It was a reaction, but was unjustified as determined by the jury. As far as a sentence,
I didn't think it was a reaction. I thought the gun went off on its own.
I'm asking the court to impose a sentence. of
Maybe the
12
gun
years
had
of mutual
feelings.
confinement,
Nobody asked the gun.
followed by 13 years of extended supervision, which I'm joining in with the state on that portion for a total of 25 years. I'll leave it up to the court to
so
determine
7 and 13 is what he's saying?
how
No,
to divide
13
that
and
sentence among the
12 and
bail jumping
13.
charges.
25
12 and
total.
13. Okay.
While the bail jumping charges are aggravating circumstances, I think the court can take into account that Mr. Edgecombe accepted
Fetty
responsibility for
Chico,
that
he's still going to miss daddy-daughter night.
and recognizes the error in his ways in possessing the firearm. Had that not been the case, this may have been avoided altogether. Thank you.
So how long does his and Ruby's relationship last
you.
before they divorce in prison?
Does your client want to make a statement, or was that what you read?
Your Honor, our client's pretty high right now.
No, Your
He's
Honor.
still coming
The
down.
reason he also doesn't want to make a statement is after seeing him in the jail yesterday as well as this morning, he did have a tooth surgery and a removal. It's difficult for him to speak, and he did show me he does actually have some bleeding as well. So that is the reason that
Fine.
he's choosing not to make a statement today. But that was his statement, which I did read for the court.
Fine.
Whatever.
Can I drop the hammer now?
We got to hurry up. I got to get to watch the F1 practice. Let's go.
Oh, look.
Is that a Zima? Is he drinking a Zima? What's he drinking there, defense counsel?
In fashioning a fair and appropriate sentence, as I'm required, I'm looking at the gravity of this offense.
Here we
the
go.
defendant's character,
Money
and
shot.
the need to protect the public, along with things like punishment, deterrence, rehabilitation.
This is all boilerplate, people.
And all of those things are factors in this case, and factors for my sentencing.
He's like, damn,
Please
prosecutor
freeze,
recommended
sure.
25 years, and I was thinking 50.
First of all, I want to say that, and I've told the lawyers this previously, and I think I put it on the record previously, but though he was an attorney, I did not know Mr. Clearman He did not practice in front of me. By all accounts, the letters, the victim's wife, everything that's been presented certainly appears that Mr. Clearman was an upstanding citizen, but I did not know him.
And now I never can.
The state referenced this, and
We could have talked about such enthralling things in
I'm
immigration
going to pick
law.
up one of the state's comments. This trial had a lot of noise around it, outside noise,
Noise.
antics from people not involved in this case.
Sorry, Judge.
Yeah, douchebags commenting on the
But this
internet.
case was about the actions of the defendant. It was about the actions that occurred
Actions.
between two men in September of 2020. And I think it's incumbent upon me to say that a justice system that is constantly berated in certain segments of society is sometimes berated unfairly.
Uh-oh.
Also,
This is the
fuck
case
you
where
to
the
B'Ivory.
justice system worked. The defense will recall, and the state will recall, there were actually
Talking to you,
two
Lamar.
in this case. The first jury I dumped for various reasons that don't need to be discussed.
I love this guy
The jury
so
that
much.
eventually heard this case was the most diverse jury that I've ever seated in Milwaukee County.
I'm not racist. I have a diverse jury.
6 people of color, 6 whites, including 5 African Americans. That jury, who truly was a jury of the defendant's peers, found the defendant guilty in about 2 hours.
Oh no, there's a rapidity of verdict
Was not
surcharge.
Self-defense. This was a homicide.
30 minutes, your
The
probation's
defendant
free.
being sentenced for a homicide.
Six black, 5 white, and 1 juror who was translucent.
There's a lot to discuss related to this case and related to the defendant and the defendant's character, the defendant's actions,
Or lack thereof.
the need to protect the public, punishment, and other factors. But first of all, again, as the state mentioned, this case is part of the insanity that goes on in Milwaukee County with guns. Just so we're clear, Mr. Edgecombe is being sentenced only for his actions, not the actions of any other person or any other case. But as the state pointed out, and the state has heard me say this more than once on the record, homicides in Milwaukee County are out of control. In 2019, there were about 90. Then we almost doubled that in 2020. Then we increased it again in 2021. And though it's only early April, we're on pace to potentially double that homicide rate now to 400.
Can't wait to visit Milwaukee.
Most of it is idiocy over arguments when people pull out guns. The state used this in their closing argument, and it's correct. Mr. Edgecombe brought a gun to a fist fight.
Hear that, folks? All of you who want to be able to
Certainly,
shoot
I saw
someone
the
in a
videos,
fist
they
fight.
said 10 times, 20 times, I can't remember how many times. There was some, depending on how you believe, or which side you believe, there was some, not exactly a confrontation, but either the Clearman's vehicle swerved, or Mr. Edgecombe cut in front of him, or there may have been some contact between the car and the bicycle that Mr. Edgecombe was on.
Come on, we know that's
and
bullshit.
That was not caught on video. Then there was the confrontation where Mr. Edgecombe bikes west on Brady Street at a very fast clip. The Clearmans are waiting in traffic. It's a short confrontation, but Mr. Edgecombe slugs Mr. Clearman through the car door window.
Top of the world,
Hits
Ma.
him pretty much
God, I can only imagine the reaming out that
Certainly in a
Borowski's
violent
butcher
fashion.
gets when he gives him a round steak
Then
instead
Mr.
of a
Edgecombe
ribeye.
peels off, turns right, and heads up the bridge on Holton Street. I'm sure that Mr. Clearman was frustrated and upset that he'd just been punched by Mr. Edgecombe. And I'm sure that the victim's wife probably, I'm sure, questions why she turned and followed Mr. Edgecombe, even if that was what Mr. Clearman asked her to do. But to respond to the defense inference, I'm not going to be in a position here where I'm blaming the victim. I'm blaming the person who was shot to death. Because that's along the lines of, well, don't drive on Capitol Drive because it's a war zone, because people drive so badly on that street that it's not safe. Don't go into a certain neighborhood because you might get shot. Don't
It's actually
approach
good
someone,
advice, though.
I would say he was striding quickly at Mr. Edgecombe because he might have a gun. In a community that did not feel obligated or for some reason compelled to resolve arguments and fistfights with a gun, those kind of dangers would not be present. And this situation would have been resolved differently. Looking at the defendant's character, yes, I read there were probably at least a dozen letters on behalf of the victim, probably a dozen letters or more on behalf of the defendant. I read those letters. I read the pre-sentence investigation. I read the sentencing memorandum, which was only a few pages that was submitted by defense counsel within the last day or two. Certainly, as the state conceded, Mr. Edgecombe is nowhere near the worst of the worst. I see defendants with far longer records, with much worse behavior, with far more dangerous behavior. This case did not involve, for instance, Mr. Edgecombe, as the defense pointed out, being in a gang or as part of an armed robbery or as part of some other form of violence. But as the state pointed out, well, Mr. Edgecombe's record is relatively limited, fairly limited. It has in the past involved allegations of, and at least one conviction of carrying a concealed weapon. And Mr. Edgecombe, you were not to be possessing a weapon when this occurred. Had you followed the judge or commissioner's order to not have a weapon on you, this resolves as a fist fight.
If at all.
Mr. Edgecombe, there's only so much credibility I can give to your statements, and the jury rejected it completely.
And it's not much.
Your statements that you feared for your life.
The jury rejected it completely.
This, even if you attribute the worst motives to Mr. Clearman, and I'm not, but for the sake of the argument, the worst case scenario here should be a fist fight. You're 20 years younger than the victim. As the state pointed out, Mr. Clearman did not have a gun. He had a small switchblade that was in his pocket that he never brought out, that he never
Not a
branded,
switchblade.
based on all the evidence and all accounts.
He's not a weapons guy.
And the defense said, well, this was sort of a random situation, which, depending on how you look at it, that could be mitigating or it could be an aggravating circumstance.
It's not like he had history with this guy. First encounter kills him. and go both ways.
Had the Clearman stayed where they were for another 10 or 15 minutes at the restaurant or bar, had Mr. Edgecombe decided to go to a different restaurant that was not on Brady Street, this confrontation almost certainly never occurs. And Mr. Edgecombe would be going out with his
Can I just hear someone say,
wife,
mm-hmm?
but so would Mr. Clearman.
Or they would have run into other
All
versions of each
purposes
other.
For you and your family, no matter what the sentence,
Given the street was a war zone.
killed
Yes.
another person. And your testimony, which the jury clearly rejected, and the jury made their decision that this was not self-defense, was not particularly credible. To say
the least.
you said it repeatedly on the stand, the gun just went off, when what the testimony was from multiple eyewitnesses was that you pulled up your hand and went like this.
Well, you are
right
supposed to
at
pull the
forehead
trigger
of the
where it
victim
surprises you.
and shot the victim almost directly between the eyes. That's not an accident. That's not a gun just going off. That's you brandishing a weapon and pointing it at someone's temple.
I sentence you to eating Milwaukee sushi for the rest of your life.
Obviously, the defendant has a right to a trial. He exercised his right to a trial.
We did all that.
Yeah.
All that bullshit's out of the way now.
That's his way of saying this was a waste of time.
I just don't know why Mr. Edgecombe didn't shoot himself in the head.
You engaged in incredibly bad.
Should have thrown yourself down
decision-making.
the stairs.
You did not need to pull out a gun, and you certainly did not need to pull the trigger.
You could have just kept going.
While
That's the
there
other
was
thing.
Discrepancies in the testimony. There were, as I recall, 4 witnesses, not including the victim's wife. The 4 witnesses, one person was driving by, one person was behind the Clearman's vehicle. There were the 2 gentlemen sort of across the street or on the other corner. And everyone basically agreed there were some discrepancies, that the car pulls over, that Mr. Clearman gets out of the car. He starts, I would say, striding towards you. And you immediately pull out a gun, point it right at the victim, and the victim goes straight down dead. The whole thing happens in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds. I'm not sure, Mr. Edgecombe, that you understand the depths and the gravity of your offense.
But you will in a minute.
Mrs. Clearman's life and the life of her children will never be the same. There will never be a day that goes by that they don't think about this situation. I'm sure that, as Ms. Clearman said, it's bad enough to find out that a relative died. A relative
MD
had a
says,
heart
can you
attack,
repeat the question, Your Honor?
have a police officer come to your
Your
door,
Honor, can you repeat that sentence?
say that a friend or relative or, God forbid, a spouse was killed, but to watch your spouse be killed right in front of you when you're 10 or 20 feet away, I can't think of anything worse.
Not since JFK's assassination.
And while, as the state pointed out, Mr. Edgecombe, your record's not the worst.
This is more tragic than 9/11.
You're employed for the most part. You have an education.
Of sorts.
You work at a peer supporting your children.
The best the city of Milwaukee could give you.
You did a number of things in this case that aggravated the circumstances, aggravated the case both literally and figuratively.
You're a grown man riding a bicycle on a public street.
Claimed basically that this was self-defense. Yet, rather than staying on the scene or turning yourself in, you go on the run for 6 or 7 months. You leave the state. You allegedly ditched the gun somewhere in Indiana. You get picked up 6 or 7 months later in Kentucky. There's
And then you
never been
lied
any acceptance
about who you
of
were.
responsibility for your actions. Mr. Edgecombe. None.
But I pled guilty for the bail jumping and the guns.
Agoo. That should be an aggravating factor. You came up with the name Agoo.
It was like Agoo Man Person
It
or
struck
something
me as I
weird.
read the letters from both sides, and again, there were numerous letters on behalf of the victim.
Agoo
describing
Newman.
Mr.
That's right.
Clearman, and numerous letters on behalf of Mr. Edgecombe, that the two people involved in this tragedy have family members and friends that think very similar things about them. As I said, Mr. Clearman was clearly, based on the letters and his career, a fine, upstanding citizen. The letters all indicate that he was a good father, a good parent, a good spouse, a law-abiding citizen. The letters that were written on your behalf, Mr. Edgecombe, also are similar. Most of them say that you're a good father, that you've provided for your children, that you've got an education. And yet, because of a terrible, terrible, callous, thoughtless decision, we have someone who's killed in his mid-50s.
Saved us from paying Social Security.
The mitigating factor,
And
you saved the
state's correct.
state
This is
several
another case of
$1,000s.
people having no impulse control.
Guardian of
I have other
Medicaid.
pending cases in front of me where, for example, in a bar, one guy bumps into a guy's brother. The brother pulls out his gun, starts firing up, shooting up the entire restaurant, the entire bar. One person's killed, another one's injured. I had a case that went to trial where defendant's mad because somebody else allegedly pushes his ex-girlfriend. He decides to drive by the house and shoot and kill him. People have no impulse control in this community. And Mr. Edgecombe, had you not been violating the
you might
law,
wanna
and the order to
mute
not have a
Andrew. I
gun,
think his
then
mic's
worst case scenario, this goes down as a fist fight. Broken nose, broken eye, someone's glasses get knocked off.
God, he's got that ability to look like he's buffering.
Yeah.
That's
he's
impressive.
He's just dragging this out forever.
He's-
Maybe this is the sentence.
The state discussed the defendant's not just record, but his
moving in for the
multiple
kill.
contacts with the criminal justice system. I'm giving that limited weight because it is a limited record, because it's outweighed for the most part by other characteristics from the defendant in terms of his prior record or lack thereof. The pre-sentence investigation basically says, I'm paraphrasing, that the defendant's sort of a moderate risk to the community, a moderate risk to reoffend.
I guess.
Depends on who you ask.
Certainly, the defendant does need to be punished. He needs to be sentenced. And, you know, this is obviously a criminal, strike that, obviously a prison case. There needs to be deterrence, both specific deterrence to Mr. Edgecombe and general deterrence to the community.
Well, in that case, it's a million years.
that it's time for people to stop resolving arguments or confrontations or any possible disruption in their life with a gun. Not just brandishing it, but firing it.
Man, this sounds like I think he's going to go soft on him.
And Mr. Edgecombe, again, all 4 witnesses that were independent to this case and the victim's wife all said that you pretty much immediately, as Mr. Clearman came at you, pulled the gun up, pointed it at him, and killed him. You shot him right here, almost right between the eyes. That is not an accident, as you testified. It's not. That's not the gun just going off. That's completely incredible. Completely unbelievable. And I'm sure that's what the jury was thinking.
Because they were a smart jury, a good jury. That's what a good jury would think. Man, I told my wife this would be done by 6. Now I'm not so sure.
I certainly understand the victim's family and their request for the maximum sentence on the first-degree reckless homicide, which the defendant was found guilty of. As the state said, and as I'm sure they've explained to the victim's family, this is not a maximum case. Maximum cases are, as the state noted, reserved for, frankly, the worst of the worst. It'd be someone who has a far longer record than Mr. Edgecombe, committed a homicide in a worse fashion, all sorts of other aggravating factors that aren't present here.
Like Chandler Halderson.
Would you have
Eating
taken
your
a bite
parents.
of Jason Clearman?
The wife did.
But again, the jury of the defendant's peers determined that this was not self-defense.
What does immigration
They
attorney
did not
taste
deliberate
like?
for a long period of time. 2 hours, 2.5 max.
Treason. What you gonna do, Judge? He's deciding if he wants to change his mind.
I don't know.
So he's made up his decision long before anybody said a word in court, but now he listened to people in court and he's deciding what he wants to do. Even though he read what they said, still.
Yeah.
It is kind of a heavy burden.
I mean, Mr. Edgecombe, one of your family members mentioned explaining to your children why you're not coming back or why you weren't bailed out. That's nothing compared to having young adults or older children never see their father again. To have a father never be there for a wedding or graduation from college or purchase of a first home. Any explanation that has to be given to your kids is nothing by comparison. A, because you're still here, and B, because you engaged in this behavior.
Cameraman's like, God, I ran out of Zoom credit.
Yeah.
Now I gotta wait.
Running low on battery. Hurry up, Judge.
Part of this sentence, frankly, is punishment. A lot of it is punishment and deterrence. You know, a civil society can't allow people to.
He's got a football painting above his bookshelf there.
One would think that goes without saying. But with the crime,
As Newt Rockney would have said.
has not gotten through to large segments of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. every sentence that occurs in a homicide, let alone any other case, also needs to be proportionate to what other similar cases and other similar situations receive. Every case is unique, obviously. Every set of circumstances is different from one case to another, including from one homicide to another. I'm certainly aware of all the requirements of Galleon and similar case law regarding what's necessary in terms of punishment, regarding what's necessary in terms of confinement. And candidly, the request from the defense is not appropriate. The request from the state is candidly lower than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
No
You
kidding.
think?
Yeah.
Oh, ignore it. That'd be funny. Please go above the state. That'd make me laugh. I think this is his problem. He's like, the son of a bitch requested 25 years. What is he thinking?
For anyone that doubts that, within the last 10 days, I had a case that was very, very similar where a defendant alleged self-defense. The jury did not believe it. That defendant testified, did not testify truthfully. In that case, the state asked for over 30 years. So the state's recommendation in this case is on the low end of what would be recommended in a homicide similar to this. That's just reality.
They're just lucky the Brewers haven't been playing lately.
Well, it was opening day recently, so he's not completely upset yet.
Oh, it was opening
One thing
day.
the state did not discuss is obviously there was the aspect of provocation in this case. Mr. Edgecombe, I don't know what was going through your head. Whatever happened initially, and I don't believe the testimony or the implication that you were hit by the clearman's car and you rolled up on their side of the car or the front of the car, that's not plausible because your bike was not damaged. You weren't injured. There was no visible damage to the car. That's not plausible. But whatever did occur, for you to be so hot under the collar that rather than ignore it or drive by and handle
Yell
it
the
in some
N-word
other
at him.
fashion, you slug through a window and do significant damage to the victim, punching him in the face and in the eye and knocking his glasses off, causing abrasions and cuts. I can't imagine what was going through your head and why you thought that was an appropriate way to respond to whatever happened.
You said
initially
it, poor
that was
impulse
not caught on
control.
camera. And then again, ultimately, Mr. Edgecombe, there was no need whatsoever, even if, and yes, Mr. Clearman was striding towards you, for you to pull a gun and within a matter of a couple of seconds, put a bullet in his skull. I apologize if that's a very candid description of what occurred, but that's what occurred.
He just looks like the most disappointed dad ever.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm angry.
I'm sentencing the defendant as follows, largely following the state's recommendation: 25 years of initial confinement, 12 years of extended supervision. That's on
Wow.
count one. That is the absolute minimum required to punish the defendant, to incarcerate him, to send a deterrent message to this community. 25 years of initial confinement, 12 years of extended supervision.
Wow.
This was a homicide. That sentence is consecutive to the end of the case, consecutive to any other sentence. On count two,
Consecutive.
bail jumping, sentencing the defendant to a total of 4 years, 2 years of initial confinement, 2 years of extended supervision. That sentence is concurrent to count one, concurrent to count three, and concurrent to any other sentence. On count three, which is the misdemeanor bail jumping, I'm sentencing the defendant to 6 months in the House of Corrections or in jail. That sentence is concurrent to count two and concurrent to count one. It's the court's specific intent.
So count one is
serves 25 years of initial confinement, 12 years of extended supervision. In this case, The defendant is not eligible for the challenge incarceration program, not eligible for the substance abuse program. The defendant will be provided a written explanation of the determinant sentence. While
It's
in the
consecutive
institution,
to
I'm authorizing
any
up to the
other
maximum amount
Other
things that he's
cases
already
he
been
has.
sentenced for.
custody,
Yes.
earnings, wages, funds, or monies of any sort. I'm granting the state's request for restitution, which was stipulated to. The restitution amount is $4,840. The restitution is to be paid.
That's a lot of
the
White
victim's
Claws.
wife. Conditions of extended supervision are as follows. First of all, because this matter is a felony, Mr. Edgecombe is not allowed to own or possess a firearm, a gun, and any.
That didn't stop him
That's
before.
worked so
I'm sure that'll stop him.
He's not allowed to vote in any elections until civil rights are restored. They will be restored at some time in the future, but until then, you're not allowed to vote. Mr. Edgecombe, you will have the right to appeal. An appeal would have to be filed within 20 days. Conditions of extended supervision are as follows. First of all, no further law violations rising to the level of probable cause. Mr. Edgecombe is not allowed to own or possess a gun or a weapon of any kind. Mr. Edgecombe, when you're released, you are obligated to work full-time. You're to pay restitution if it's not already been paid while you're in the institution. I'm ordering the defendant to pay all costs, fees, and surcharges, both mandatory and non-mandatory
Good
costs,
luck.
fees, and surcharges. They're to be paid first while in the institution, then if not paid while in the institution, paid while on extended supervision.
Your 83 cents an
Now,
hour
on
salary
extended
will really
supervision,
add up.
Or while in the institution, I want the defendant to have an AODA assessment for any drug or alcohol needs. If there are any AODA needs, he's to be treated in the institution or while on extended supervision. While on extended supervision, Mr. Edgecombe is not allowed, strike that, I'm ordering absolute sobriety. Mr. Edgecombe is not allowed to drink alcohol. He's not allowed to use any illegal
No White
drugs.
Claws for Edgecombe.
Does the man have
Beyond
no
those conditions,
compassion?
I'm going to leave the further conditions of extended supervision up to the Department of Corrections. Again, in this case, because of the nature of this offense, the defendant is not eligible for the challenge incarceration program and not eligible for the substance abuse program. I will provide the defendant with a written explanation of the sentence in this case.
You suck. Signed, Judge Borowski.
Again, the defendant has the right to appeal. An appeal would have to be filed within 20 days. I'll ask the state, am I forgetting anything? Am I leaving anything out? Defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we're adjourned. We're off the record. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
You got it like he got the most sweetheart prosecutor on the planet. And Borowski,
Yeah.
Went with it.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised he did. Wow. Well, gentlemen, what do you think?
I'm disappointed. I expected more out of Borkowski, but also I'm just glad this is all over.
Yeah.
Ready to move on from Theodore Edgecombe to the girl who poops in the bed.
Yes. It's Amber Turd.
Yes.
No, it's interesting. I mean, we are downplaying the fact that it is 25 years. I mean, that's a very, very long time in prison. I'm not sure how Wisconsin does it. If there's, I assume he'll get some actual reduced amount from that. I don't know if assuming he doesn't have any screw ups, but I'm not positive how Wisconsin does that. So, but yeah, that's that. I guess you just kill someone, you get 25 years instead of anything longer. To me, I think the jury got that one wrong. I don't think you could have that be reckless in any way under the facts that were presented at trial. That seemed like an intentional homicide. All the testimony was that it was an intentional homicide.
Feels like
seemed
a
like
compromise verdict to me.
Yeah. And so then Borowski ends up with the burden then of choosing the sentence, and then the prosecutor lowballs him. So I guess that's what you do. The judge can ignore a prosecutor they can ignore the state's recommendation, but when they do, I guess you have an appeal point to say even the state thought this. I mean, not necessarily going to win, but the judge has to then determine it. Plus, he knows it's a media case, and let's be real, he was already called all sorts of names, and judges don't like that kind of attention either. So if he exceeds the recommended prosecution sentence, then he's definitely racist, right? Like, that's how that has to be. But, wow.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to have to wrap up, but before I do, can I plug my webinar again?
No.
Oh,
yeah, of course.
So, folks, I'm doing a series of law self-defense webinars over the course of this month and next month. They're called Hard to Convict webinars because I'm savvy marketing that way. These are self-defense law myth-busting webinars. They're all the same. So please, if you sign up, only sign up for one. They're less than 2 hours long. They're free. They're 100% free. We'll bust the most common self-defense law myths, the kind of things that if you believe them and do them can send you to prison. We have a number this month and next month. You can go to lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict. The dates that are still available will be listed there. Just register if it sounds like if it's of interest. They are free, 100% free, but they are limited to 100 seats each, and that's why they fill up so quickly. So if that's of interest, lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict. Potentially criminal. Very nice meeting you, Nick. Thanks for having me on again, as always, and I hope we do it again soon. Take care, folks.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, guys, I would just recommend Andrew does good work. So, yeah, he's definitely somebody to listen to.
I'm going to turn us back up here.
Okay.
I hope we blow out your headphones, chat.
Yes. Enjoy your tinnitus.
We're seeing some. I'm seeing some questions in the chat about what concurrent and consecutive sentencing is. So in this case, it's a little weird. He has consecutive sentencing on the first count, which means anything he was sentenced to prior to this conviction, he will serve that full time, and then he will begin his 25-year commitment. I'm not sure if he has a prior sentence.
I think there was the stuff in Waukesha that he had, or whatever all that was.
Yeah. So whatever that is, he will serve out that sentence in its entirety, and then he will start his 25-year sentence the day that ends. Okay. Yes. So concurrent sentencing was done on counts 2 and 3, which means that that time served is being served at the same time concurrently with any other sentencing that they have. So while he's serving the 25 years, the 2 years for the gun charge or whatever, and then the 6 months for the bail jumping charge, those are served at the same time as the 25 years. So they will not be tacked on to the end. That all happens, right during the initial confinement. So effectively, it's just the 25 years plus the 12 years of supervised release.
Yeah. And the best way to understand it, the last court that sentences you gets to decide whether things are concurrent or consecutive. Because if Court A sentences you first, Court B can do whatever it wants. Court A can't tell Court B what to do. So, yeah, it sounds like this is it for Theodore. This is everything being wrapped up.
Yeah. So he will, whatever, I don't know what his Waukesha sentencing was, but he will serve the 25 years for this crime. And then minus whatever sort of parole opportunities he may have. Some states do for every 3 days that you serve, you get 2 days credit or whatever. I don't know if Wisconsin does that. I'm not sure. Not an expert on Wisconsin sentencing by any means. But yeah, I mean, okay, potentially criminal. Let's say you're B'Ivory Lamar. How do you feel about the sentencing results?
It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. That's not a bad day for the defense team.
Yeah, I mean, that's once you lose, the next step is mitigating the damage. And I will say, not because of the skill of his attorneys, but other people helped probably lessen the impact here. I think all those statements were what kind of saved his grits there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I disagree with the sentencing. I think it was far too light. Again, I think the initial conviction was incorrect. I think the facts do not support the conviction that he got. The facts do not support a reckless homicide. Facts support an intentional homicide. Borowski seems to clearly think that the facts supported an intentional homicide, not a reckless one.
I agree.
But he's bound by the charge. He's bound by the conviction of the jury to some extent. But yeah, he went very light on him, and the state only asking for 25 years after making the case that they did, that this guy this guy shot him in cold blood intentionally. That was the case the state made. So they lost on the intentionality and got recklessness, but they still made the case for intentionality and could have easily asked for 30, 35 years. They could have asked for 40. I think the max was 60. They could have gone to the 40-year range without too much issue. They may not have gotten it, but it wouldn't have been an unreasonable request.
No, and it was. I don't generally like when they talk about like victims' rights and whatnot, but they completely disregarded what the victim's family wanted here, and that's a surprise. Usually, the state will go along with the victim. I mean, they don't ever, no prosecutor wants to be seen as somebody who ignores the rights of the victims out there. It just looks bad PR-wise. So yeah, I'm surprised they weren't swinging for the fences. Like, it's weird. The way that came about was very weird to me.
Yeah, and they said that both the state and Borowski said, well, this is not a maximum sentence case. And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, I might ultimately agree that it's not a maximum sentence case, but I'm not agreeing with that as the argument from the state. Like, to me, this guy has a record of violating his handgun prohibition, or his gun prohibition.
Yeah.
He uses a gun illegally to kill someone. And again, the state's perspective throughout the trial is that this was intentional. And then you get it, and it's like, well, this isn't a maximum sentence case. It's like, you just argued first degree intentional homicide. How is this, which would carry a sentence of life without the possibility of parole? That's the automatic sentence in Wisconsin for first degree. So that's more than a maximum sentence if you would have won on your issue. So it's very, very strange perspective to take, in my opinion.
Yeah. He went really hard into describing everything about him just to say, well, take it easy on him. I don't get it. I mean, that's a lot of, number one, that's just doing a lot of work just to then say, oh, don't worry about everything I just said.
Right.
And it's not as though he has to protect or fortify the record at all.
No.
Yeah, so I don't get why he did all that.
Yeah, and even Borowski, I mean, he spent a lot of time talking about poor impulse control, talking about how this could have been resolved without a gun. The literal worst case scenario based on you punching this guy was that you end up getting into a fist fight when he catches up to you. Like, you made these decisions, you did this, their family's never coming back. Your kid's pain is nothing compared to the pain that they feel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the lightest sentence I can give.
Yeah. And I will say, when he started bringing up the thing about the kids, Theodore didn't say that. That was what the other family members mentioned. So
yeah,
I don't know if that was really fair to pin that on him, to say, well, you're worried about your kids. Like, well, yeah, he is, but he didn't mention
maybe he's worried about his kids. I mean, the letters all said he was a good dad, but he did flee those kids for 6 months. I mean, can you, like, thinking about that as a dad myself, that's hard to, like, no matter how much trouble you're in, if you're going to flee, you'd think, I'm going to flee them for 6 months. What was the plan? What was the idea there? That never got fleshed out. Like, how are you taking care of your kids and Ruby, who you love so much, during that 6 months? Like, how is that happening?
Through the power of love, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah.
He Care Bear stared through an iPhone or whatever. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But hey, I've got many super chats to read. that we will read, and I'll try and address anything that comes in there. If you're wanting to hang around, you certainly can. But I also, if you have to go at any point, just let me know. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm probably good for about a half hour or so.
Sounds great. Real quick, before I hit these super chats, guys, both Potentially Criminal and Andrew Branca's YouTube channels are linked in the description of this video. You can click on either of their names. It'll take you right to their YouTube channel. And then you click that little red subscribe button, and you get some good content shoved right into your veins from Susan. Susan will inject you with that hot, dirty video. Against your will, usually. So go ahead and do that. Make sure we are supporting people who come and contribute to the show. Stephen Oglesby says, have you seen the Husel trial? A little bit. Closing arguments are delayed for more than a week. There's a new motion to have the judge removed, apparently.
Oh,
which is
a new
lame.
one? I did not know that.
I don't know. Maybe that's what they say, but maybe it's not a new one. Maybe it's not a new one. Last I heard, closing arguments were Monday, and I was thinking about covering them. So I'll have to check on that, because if they are, I think it'd be a good closing argument to see how Baez brings it down. Lady Brett says, literally only here to simp for Hubner, and we can barely see him. Seriously, though, thanks for bringing jokes and laughter to what sometimes feels like a very dark world. 'Tis appreciated. Oh, well, you are welcome. You can always come here for jokes and laughter. Michael Palmer says, Nick, if you get a chance, you should look at the jury instructions in the GM trial and also the transcripts. What's the GM? Is that horse trainer guy?
No, that guy's name's like Michael Barasome.
Oh, yeah, that's Barrison. What the hell is the GM trial? And also the transcripts. Venue improper and charges don't fit the statutes. No way the jury understood this. It's really bad. What is the GM trial? Oh, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She got hosed. By the way. That guy completely lied and fucked her over. To get
The juror you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that juror, I mean, I think she probably deserves all of the prison in the world, but at the same time, not on that juror.
Yeah.
In the same way, like Chauvin. I think I think Chauvin fits the definition of guilty under Minnesota law. At the same time, though, he had a juror lie in voir dire under oath, and in a pretty significant way, where that juror would have been excluded. And I think that's a mistrial, or should be. But that's me. That's my defense attorney coming through.
Yeah, I know. It's just that Constitution thing, just that technicality there.
Right. It's like, this isn't a harmless error. This is a very harmful error.
Yes.
Okay. Mullen Labe says, if he is familiar with the case, what is Potentially Criminal's opinion on the CRS prosecution for the auto key card drawing and advertising? Thanks for keeping us entertained during the day. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay. Do you know about auto keys that you would, it's a piece of metal basically that you can put in a particular.
Oh, the guys making the lightning links. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, I think they did as much as you could to get it as close to, I think it still wasn't a lightning link. You had to put it together and break it out of the pieces.
Well, yeah, it wasn't perforated. Yeah. It was like drawn, it was here. etched on. Yeah. Well, and the real one though. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. The issue with that is, like, for example, if you have like an AR-15 lower, if you have an automatic sear setup, there's like it's called the third hole of doom, because if you were to put it in your receiver, it's a machine gun and you'd have to destroy it. You can pay to have people like laser etch a hole on the side of your gun because you're a loser and you want to make it look like it's an automatic weapon. But if you put it in the exact spot where that hole is meant to go, they treat that like you're preparing it for like pilot work. So I think that's the logic they're taking down the road of, like, you've made it so it's not just like I own the plans for a lightning link. They're sitting on my computer. That's perfectly legal. If I printed them out, that'd be perfectly legal. If I glued them to a piece of sheet metal, still legal. That's about as far as it goes. I think etching it in is...
If you mill them out.
Well, if just even the etching it, I mean, I think it's chicken shit, but, the ATF has more guns than I do, so you kind of have to defer to them at the end of the day.
The thing that bothers me is that aside, the guy who takes the sponsorship from the company,
Yeah.
that guy I don't think should be charged. Like,
Uh,
to me, that's a bridge too far.
yeah, it is, but you know, that's not a word that exists in the Fed's vocabulary. Like,
That's true.
Overzealous. So
Yeah, actually, the feds don't believe in a bridge too far. They're so opposed to that notion that they will buy a puppy, mail it to your house so they can shoot it when they arrive.
yes, yeah. But no, I think that it's a bogus prosecution. But you know, for a federal agency that is the definition of arbitrary and capricious and fairly malicious, the ATF would fit that to a T. So.
Right. Jim says, fine. Totally Not a Cop says, is killing a lawyer the same as killing a person? No, actually, if he killed a person, he probably would have gotten 40 years.
Yeah.
The Squid says, did this lady say he spent his life getting educated on being a black man? He must have learned from Chicago, considering his prison record and the murder he committed. Now, to be fair, his prison record was one misdemeanor. That's all that ever stuck to him. The other charges were all dismissed, and that's sometimes how it goes. The Kenosha Kid says you shouldn't be legally allowed to be that bald and still have bangs. Landon Young, welcome to, or thank you for being a member 20 months. Very cool. Crew Sadist Viewing says, bring back the Pew Pew Squad. Let him die as he chose to live. Wait, was it Ohio that just brought back Firing Squad?
I'm
or was it?
I know Utah's got it. I think other states are starting to go back to the old ways.
Someone just did it.
I'd like to see Ohio bring back Old Sparky.
South Carolina.
That's me.
You'd like to see what?
Old Sparky come back.
Yeah.
Like
I would rather. I'll take a Firing Squad over Lethal Injection or Old Sparky personally.
Yes.
Please.
I would take a Firing Squad.
Put the bullet in the brain.
If hanging's possible, I think if it's done right, that's it. So I might take that instead.
If it's done wrong, though, it's a real shit day.
Yeah. Yes. If they intentionally mess up your drop or use an old rope.
Yeah. Let's see. Crusader says, let him die as he chose to live. If we have to be taxed for the welfare of murderers, justice has failed twice. The state has no problem killing for themselves who they choose in any other scenario. Next, we've got, where were we? Ryan Knoll says, isn't Branca joining you today? Yes, that was sent early. So we're back at the early chats. JMD Reed says, the brachial artery in the shoulder is a bad one to sever. Can't tourniquet it. Always laugh on TV when they shoot people there like it's no biggie. Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but there was the OnlyFans model who just murdered her boyfriend, or just killed her boyfriend, and might be murder, might be self-defense. Did you see that at all? You're muted.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when you come down through the shoulder like you're, killing that dude in Troy, it doesn't end well.
Yeah, it's a bad way to go, especially on the left side, right? Like right above the heart, you've got a cluster of arteries there. Very bad place to get stabbed.
Maybe she filmed it for OnlyFans. Like maybe it'll be exclusive content when she's done.
Yeah. Well, there was lots of lube at least.
Yes.
Random commenter says, at least he doesn't look like he'd get his purse stolen. Oh yes, the victim that we're talking about this guy. I said he deserved it. Based off of this picture that we have right here.
Of the dead guy?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's wearing a Burberry shirt and he's got this purse on. So I think that's justifiable homicide automatically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this is her and him, and she did the stabbing. This time, Blue-Eyed Roof Curry in the Bay says OnlyFans murderer will be the hottest chick in her prison. Joe Masher says, Nick started listening to Sabaton after hearing you talk about them. The Final Solution is haunting, and I can't stop listening to it. Okay, I haven't listened to The Final Solution. I'll have to do that. unless that's a meme joke, in which, well, that'll be clipped. Andrew Hansen says 64 grand a month or 69 a month. Kim D says, lol, the prosecution will have to sub to her OnlyFans for research. Yeah. Whiskey Theorizes says only felons. Oh, that's good. That's good. So I was musing on the fact that at some point in the future, there's going to have to be a service where you get to look, like when a murder comes across social media, you get to find the nudes of the murderer or murdered, right? Like that's going to have to happen.
Oh yeah, that I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, they had the Mugshot Hotties Twitter account or whatever. That one's good. But yeah, they need that one, for research purposes. Phantom Lord says, my question is, did she make a shank or did she use a knife? Because making a shank show premeditation on her part. Making a shank might show premeditation if it was makeshift. It depends on how the makeshift stabbing was made.
Might be like a shard of glass.
Yeah, it could be a shard of glass or a broken mug or something like that. But
yeah.
They don't say, but I'm gonna assume knife, because they usually, if there's some like interesting detail, that's gonna make it into the news story. Cedar Stuff says, what do you think a correct sentence should be? I was thinking 40 years plus 5 aggravated for the firearm possession, or for the firearm use. That's what I thought was the appropriate sentence. It's right in the middle of the range. And again, with the whole, this sure looked like first degree murder to me. And that's what the state argued. And I think it was a compromise verdict. So that's what I think the correct sentence should have been. But yeah, now we know it was 25 years was correct.
Yes.
Nadeem Hasso says, nudes for the deceased. I'm not necrophiling it. Terry Bell says, cranking to dead porn stars is my favorite pastime. AP779 says, Nick, I found a picture of a cat that looks like Ethan Ralph. How do I share? Send it to me on Twitter, please. The Man's Reality Podcast says he got to get out that what happened. He got get out that what happened to him. I think, I guess.
I agree.
I think that's
100%.
Yes.
Very
I
profound.
think what they're talking about is the OnlyFans murder too. Like that's what you get for dating an OnlyFans girl. Don't do it.
Oh yeah. That's
Contrarian 420 says, good to have base Branca back. I think he's your best guest, Rackets. Oh, thank you. I don't know why I'm thanking you. Blue-eyed Roof Korean the base says, odd question for the day. Could gun stores legally refuse firearm sales to federal employees, FBI, ATF? Would it be illegal if multiple stores did the same? I don't think the government can compel a gun store to sell a government agent a gun.
The ATF specifically tells firearms, the FFL holders, you can refuse a sale to anyone for any reason.
Yeah.
And they make sure they understand they would rather have you, be a racist and not sell guns to minorities than, sell one sketchy straw purchase. I mean,
right.
They will generally back people. That's one of the weird places you can kind of break other federal laws, and the ATF will support you on that.
Tall Skinny Geek says, did I miss when Nick delivered on his promise to gift you guys something for contributing to the Rittenhouse stream? I have sent lots of super chats to various participants, but no, I'm not done doing that. And I wasn't going to like do something specific. So if you're looking for like some event, I don't know what that would be, but I was thinking I'd send a bunch of super chats and hopefully help cross promote people. Let's see. Andrew Hansen says, imagine Judge Borowski handling the OnlyFans trial. Joseph Fizo says, what if Ezra Miller was fired and they gender swap Flash with Gina Carano as the new female Flash? I think it would still be a disaster. DC movies, bad. Fluffer Boy 2004 says, how many Courtneys are going to kill their boyfriends before we realize it's a problem? It's a good question. That is a good question. Yeah. Matthew Vicari, Courtney Clenny, take your swing. Maddie G is me says, what do you think about no charges being filed in the Amir Locke shooting? Well, that's blue privilege.
Yes.
That's just blue privilege is real. It manifests in multiple ways. A lot of times it's no charges. In other times it's false credibility. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah, there should be charges. I mean, I did a video on that. So if you guys want to watch that, I may as well shill my stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, that one was wrong. Just like a lot of them are.
Darth Chaz says, what is your opinion of at Comic Dave Smith for Libertarian Party presidential candidate and Michael Malice for press secretary? Do it. Shake up the Libertarian Party. It needs it. It needs a lot of shaking like a baby.
Yes, it does.
DL Rittenberry says, rye recommendations, $40 to $80 range for this fine Friday, please, good sir. Look, Whistle Pig farm stock rye, 6-year rye, I think are both in that $40 to $80 range. They'll serve you well. Bullet rye is a solid go-to rye anytime you need one. Michter's rye is good as well. I would not recommend what the hell am I thinking of?
I'll be right
Basil
back.
Hayden's. Wait, what was? Oh yeah, okay. I would not recommend Basil Hayden's rye. Yep, sounds good. Don't do Basil Hayden's rye. Basil Hayden's bourbon's fine. Their rye is kind of trash, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps. If you want to splurge a little bit, okay. I know you said 80 is the top, but if you want to go up to like 95 to 105, depending on where you are, Angel's Envy finished rye, finished in Caribbean casks, is one of the best around $100 bottles of whiskey that I've encountered. It's really, really good all the time. So if you want to treat yourself, Pure Lantota says, Sludge died in the last Transformers series. Can you pour one out to Dinobot Sludge? Wait, what? Sludge died? Dude. Maybe found out there never was actually a Brontosaurus. Brontosauruses were a lie. I don't know if you guys know that. Turns out they mixed up a couple skeletons and created an entirely different dinosaur. Littlefoot is based on a fiction. It's very much a shame. Brachiosaur, that's correct. Apatosauruses, I think those are still legit. Brontosauruses, no. So to Sludge, the Dinobot we all love. To all the Dinobots in their morning of sludge. Cheers. Nova Amp says Whitmer trial concluded. Yes. 2 not guilty verdicts and 2 hung juries.
Yep.
Is amazing.
That's
amazing
awesome.
Results. I wish that trial was televised because those defense attorneys need a flipping medal. That thing stunk from the get-go. It smelled bad. And when they started bringing out Fed after Fed after Fed, it's like, how is this not entrapment at this point? It's just crazy.
Yeah, and where's that one guy who snitched out and turned states? How much time did he end up getting for cooperating?
Yeah, the guilty plea guy.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, that worked out really well for him now. Sold his friends out and he got screwed still.
One guy was suspected to plead guilty. Wait,
Yeah,
no. 75 months in prison.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody talks, everybody walks, kids. Nobody talks, everybody walks.
Don't talk to cops.
Yeah. Don't snitch. Don't be a fucking
by the
snitch.
way, if you find out that in your conspiracy that there's more feds than conspirators, you've got to run that entrapment case. Like, you have to do it at that point. Like, oh my goodness. Let's see. Joey W. Bush says, question for Branca. What's the law behind self-defense against a dog attack? Oh, we read that one. That's fine. But yes, you can always defend yourself against legitimate threats to your safety. You can do that. And dogs are not people, so it's not the same standard. As much as white women want dogs to be people, they're not. So if you have to put a dog down, I mean, you do. Cops do it all the time. Like legitimately, they do that. That's not even a slam, because a lot of times they are at risk. Big dogs, they come into a house, like a drug house, and there's a Doberman or a Rottweiler or something. But yeah, they do that. But like Branca said, it better be legitimate. Mojo Each says, any update on Ashley? Ashley who? Like Ashley Babbitt's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, she's still not with us.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the Ashley they're talking about. Rach says, Branca, if you get the chance, you should watch Barrisone's attorney from today. He was very stubborn about lesser included of aggravated battery. Josh Vermillion says, Branca Burns getting a bunch of new videos from today. Bill S says, when are we going to see drunk Branca again? Hopefully soon. Maybe get him on a nighttime show. It's hard for him to do normal nighttime shows, but we'll see. Katie says, just because you guys make my day. Thank you, Katie. Agent Rude says, wouldn't it be great if the widow cracked and chugged a White Claw at the end of the statements? Yes. Cynic in Chief says, the gun just went off equals Baldwin defense. Let's see. Josh, welcome to Paralegal Status. Trin says, objection, Your Honor. The victim was not omniscient and did not, in fact, know everything. Motion to strike from the record. Lagging. Hey, Branca, from the trial you've been covering, do you think comb-over guy's hair was his usual style, or was that his Sunday best due? I don't know what trial he's been covering. Has he been? I think he was watching a little bit of Barrisone. So, but I don't know. Charlie says, Branca's savage today. I'm pissing myself laughing. This is so messed up. Adam Riley, if the paralegals OnlyFans isn't improperly legal in various police uniforms, I'm disappointed. Wazapalooza the Drunk says, the camera looks that way so the public can see this through the eyes of the locals. The smart ones pregame their alcohol before sitting through this. Trin says, Your Honor, my client was an innocent, law-abiding citizen from the day he was born right up until he shot the victim in the face. JK the Slacker, you had to go and accuse the prosecutor of being reasonable, didn't you? I did. He's like, I want that prosecutor in any case that I would be defending. Like, that's the prosecution you want to have. He seemed to run the case honestly and competently, and then also was super lenient on sentencing. In my opinion, super lenient. I don't know. Maybe he disagrees. Sam Welter says, oh, man, I've missed that. Fine. Oh, yeah. Borowski's fine. Fine. Trin says, so what happens next for Edgecombe? Can he appeal? Yeah. I mean, he probably will.
And he's going to lose.
Yeah, he's going to lose that appeal. There's appeals courts are very reticent to overturn a jury verdict, and there were no significant defects in that case that were prejudicial to him at all. I mean, again, Borowski mentioned they dumped the first they dumped the first jury panel out of an abundance of caution because one of them was on video for half of a second or whatever, and they ditched the whole jury and got a whole new one. Like they took a lot of precaution on this. And there, by the way, having a juror show up on camera is not actually, that's not a prejudicial issue automatically, right? Like they try and protect juries, but if you go to the courtroom, you can see every juror, like every news person there. They can't take pictures of them, but they see them. They can look up their identities. They could, in theory, publish news stories about them. And that could lead to prejudice. It could lead to problems, but it's not automatic. Saran Concord says, Your Honor, expect to see his 6-year-old son in front of you as a defendant in about 10 years. Damn. Junebug says, look up Black Jen's mindset. Be a good guest. Trin says, driving a Kia Soul does not justify murder. Driving a PT Cruiser, though. ... Kevin Speaks on it, says a lot of serial killers were avid readers. Great people. Wisconsin is also like the serial capital of the U.S. Bogey says, can the judge order the whole family to serve alongside him? That'd be good. Siumara says he didn't do nothing. The Shadow Knight says, catching up. How about that one guy who pled guilty in the Whitmer trials? Gotta feel bad flipping for the feds only for the other guys to go free. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that's you. And he's going to go into prison as a snitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're all walking. That's crazy. Pam Ronning says the gun didn't go off. The bullet did. Kevin Speaks on it, says, I bet Borowski is actually nice away from court. Yeah, I kind of get that impression about him.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Allen, what is up with the black judge statue on the left of the judge? Is that like a legal lawn jockey? I have no idea. Janiel Vargas says, welcome to LawTube, Sean. Glad to have you. Tall Skinny Geek, 83 cents per hour, 80 hours per year, 25 years. That's $43,160, which would cover the victim's restitution. Hey, there you go. Good job. That's a retirement plan. He'll have to ration out the cigarette purchases, though. Walter B. Hey, Nick, been listening forever. First super chat. You get me through welding and fitting job. Doesn't pay much, but I love it. Take my money. I will gladly take your money. Thank you for welding and fitting. That's a cool trade. I wish I knew how to do it for random side projects. But Matthew Ehrlich, did anybody notice that B'Ivory Lamar's Instagram was deactivated today? No, I didn't. Kevin Speaks on it, says, didn't he get 13 in, 12 out, plus 2 and 2, so 15 years in? No, he got 25 in, 12 out, plus 2 and 2, but it's concurrent. Distro 32 says, so the prosecutor was pushing for life, but then asks for 25? Effectively, yes. It was very perplexing. Fair Frozen says, in Kermit voice, potentially criminal. You did lose that computer with those full auto plans in a boating accident when you visited my swamp, remember?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's too bad. KZM says, what are your thoughts on California's 30 for 30 program where every month inmates work in a full-time capacity at the prison, they get a month taken off their sentence? California has lots of prison problems. They have lots of prisoners, and prison is a two-edged sword because there's a bunch of shit that people go to prison for that they shouldn't be in prison for.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bunch of shit that people don't go to prison long enough for.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, so it's a tough one for me. Rob Dorr says, Wisconsin is a truth in sentencing state, no parole, early release only for challenged incarceration, substance abuse programs, which he isn't eligible for. Thank you, Rob Dorr. That's very, very helpful information. So he will not be getting out early.
Yeah, I was wondering if he would get early release, but yeah, he's screwed.
Good. At least the 25 years is going to stick then.
Yeah.
My mom was, you might not know this. My mom was on a jury down in Houston in the 80s. They convicted the guy to death, sentenced him to death. He's out of prison now. He's walking around. Yeah.
Wow.
He was released
eventually.
So good on that guy.
Yeah.
He did it, by the way. It wasn't like a DNA thing.
Well, then
have him on
how
video.
Did he get out?
They determined that he wasn't competent to stand trial because he was trying to go visit this is during the Islamic Revolution of Iran. And he was trying to go visit his Islamic brothers. So he robbed a McDonald's that he used to work at to get money to go to Mexico to get on a plane to Iran. That was the plan. But his brother drove him to the police station instead of the airport because his brother was terrifying. But he put the manager on his knees, hands behind his head, and just shoots him in the back of the head. It's on camera. He definitely did it. And with the robbery, makes it a capital offense, death penalty case in Texas. And but then he was about to be executed, but he got stabbed. And so they couldn't execute him because they had to heal him up from the stab first. And then during that time, they successfully got his poetry letters introduced, his Islamic poetry letters introduced. They determined that he was crazy.
Oh.
So.
Well.
I guess.
Yeah. Your mom should go have coffee with him.
Yeah. She did say that the brother who turned him in was actually scarier than him, though. The brother's name was Eddie. Wow. Soul Fiend says, need to print up some. I covered the Rittenhouse trial and all I got is this shitty shirts and send them out. That's a good idea. I like that. Rolf Peterson says, good job. It's happening with Harper. Welcome to Paralegal Status. Vanish Mantle says, would love to see you chat with Hammerhand and talk about the family court and Title 4D, or really anything about the current culture that has formed. I don't know who Hammerhand is, but I hate the family court entirely. And Title 4D is a very interesting program, we'll say. D. Watt says, I know C. Goody hates simping, but he's cool. C. Goody is a consummate simp. What are you talking about? Have you ever seen him just gushing over Mandy? Ugh. QB says, Nick, the Brontosaurus was real and had 500 teeth. Just Google 500-toothed dinosaur. No. I don't know what that means, but I know I don't want to do it. CL Hunter says, about that Gina Flash movie super chat, if they show Babas, will you see it then? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Look, I'm all about bringing back 80s casual nudity, and until that happens, I'm going to keep complaining. It's happening with Harper says, I now identify as a Brontosaurus, so they're real again. You're all welcome. And then C. Goody says, check Discord when you can. Dumb mod shit. Will do. Is this new dumb mod shit or old dumb mod shit? Okay. Got it. Whatever. I'll look at it later. It's nothing pressing. Amplify the over on Odyssey. Amplify. What was it? Amplify the something. I can't read the rest. If my refund was denied, does that mean I have to give something instead? Yes. He asked for a refund of his for the show because Branca was not no tie. I denied his refund, so then he had to pay me. Tato Chip says maybe the real sentence was the friends we made along the way. And that seems like a great place to end. Sean, is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
Actually, hold on. Somebody just posted that the judge got removed for Husel.
He did get removed.
I don't know. That's actually nothing new.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess that maybe we'll find out.
I think whoever sent that deserves a condescending glare. There you go. Condescending glare from the Nicholas Cruz judge.
Yeah.
She is judging you, and she has found you wanting to whoever sent that. Finally, Crusadist Viewing says, Islamists aren't crazy, just unapologetically sincere. Yeah, there was nothing crazy about the guy who got the death penalty, other than the fact that he was willing to shoot a man in the back of the head, which is generally crazy. That he was perfectly competent to stand trial. He wasn't particularly unintelligent. He didn't have a mental defect or a mental disorder. So that's just like some Innocence Project hippie bullshit that happens later on. And it's why Texas installed the express lane to executions. Cause that guy, we're talking, this was 20 years after the guy was sentenced to death. I mean, kept getting pushed back. Okay. Anyways, anything you want to say before we peace out?
Nope. Just, guys, if you like listening to me and don't think I'm a retard, come over to my channel, take a look. You might like it. That's pretty much it.
There you go, guys. Check him out. Again, names in the description, potentially criminal. Click on it. It'll take you right over there. Go watch some of his videos. Check out some insights. I love having more and more lawyers in the circle because there's so much stuff going on. People want everybody to cover it, and we can't. None of us can cover all this stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to check out. All right, man. Well, I'm going to play the outro to the chat. I will see you tonight with that umbrella guy. We'll be talking Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Make sure you tune in 11 p.m. Central. And until next time, peace. Peace.
See you, everybody.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side, if his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes madder, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the White white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lethbrook, the spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear Lost Planning tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dante to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear Lost Planning tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law